Welcome, everybody. It's that time again where we gather around the holler goblin and tell spooky stories. Welcome, welcome. Chris is on the boulder. Hello.
Hello.
Give everybody a
What?
minute to come in. You guys have the screen. Get some people in here. How are you, Chris?
Oh, I'm good. A little sleepy tonight, but I'm ready for some campfire tales.
Yeah, definitely. Same here.
Yeah, did you ever watch that show? Are you?
Yeah, I did actually.
I love that show.
Harry was here first. Awesome, Harry. Awesome.
Yeah, he's always here first. I think
Uh,
he's in here before you are.
he is. And Holly, there's Holly.
You're late, Holly.
All right, guys. Looks like we got everybody in here just about. Everybody go ahead and tap the screen, send some hearts. Let's get some people in here. Gathering around the holler goblin as per usual on Monday nights. We tell our spookiest spooky stories. We do paranormal stories, extraterrestrial stories, cryptid stories, unexplained in general, and glitch in the matrix. Any of those are acceptable. We'd love to hear them. Anything that just is weird and unusual that you don't understand, we'll take that too. We just want to hear your spookiest spooky story. Pull up all my crap here on the computer so I know what I'm talking about. Last night was a good night. We had a really good night.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, lots of good guests last night. Lots of crazy stories. Holy cow. It's terrifying. I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
It was so scary.
Yeah, it was a ghost night. Did you notice that? We had like a ghostly spirit theme going.
I feel like did we have like a lot of Ouija board stories?
Did we? Hmm.
Maybe
Can't
I've lost
remember.
my mind. I don't know. It seemed like we had quite a few. Um,
Yeah, I like the one about the Hat Man walking his dog. That one
yeah,
was fun.
yeah, that one was crazy. Smokes. Yeah, it's not a party until Two Smokes gets here. So, guys, go ahead and tap the screen, hit the share button, spam the comments. Let's throw some Bigfoots in the comments or some Mothman. Bigfoot, big feet? I don't ever know what the plural of Bigfoot is, but it's one of those mysteries of the universe that we'll never have a solid answer to, unfortunately.
Right.
Big Rich. Hey, Big Rich.
Queen
Infinite
Kate.
Smokes. Brian, what about Infinite Smokes? No, he's just two. He ain't even three. He's just two. Not one smoke, not three smokes, but two smokes. They threw a beer bottle at Mothman's head or something like that, and I absolutely
Uh,
lost it. God, I couldn't stop laughing the entire time. Every
yeah.
time I think about it, I would just like, oh.
Yeah, that was funny. Um,
All
Queen
right,
Kate.
guys, the guest box is open. What is it?
Oh, I was just telling Queen Kate that if she wants to come up and tell her Hat Man stories, she can.
Yep, absolutely. Hop in the box if you've got any of these topics as a story. We would love to hear it. Also, if anybody out there has any Louisiana stories, those are my favorite. And it's
Oh.
so funny because we actually got a few there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was too niche, you know. I was like, we'll never get stories about that. But we did. And we got quite a few of them. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, come back, Queen Kate, if you can. We had a witch story last night, didn't we? A couple of
um,
them.
Did we have a witch story?
Yes, we had the guy that had the Hatman phone tell us one about the witches and the road, and then we
That's
had
right. Yeah.
yeah, and then we had another one, but I can't remember it.
Yeah, we had a bunch last night. It was crazy busy in here. It was just like back to back the whole entire time.
Yeah, let
Everybody
me
was
put some witches.
riled up and ready for spooky stories last night.
Yeah,
Um, Evelyn's stories. Yeah, Evelyn had some good stories.
yeah. It'll take a little bit, but we'll get there. We'll get the ball rolling.
Yeah, Corey says, "Can I join?" Yes, you can join. All you have to do is get in the guest box. You do have to have 200 followers per TikTok's rules, and per TikTok's rules, you have to be at least 18 years of age. We don't want no fetuses up here. So,
And don't be driving.
yeah, no driving. We have a no driving policy. You get yeeted immediately. Um, Everybody safe and follow the TikTok rules. So, but other than that, if you fit those qualifications, feel free to jump in the box. We are ready for our first guest.
Yeah, I'm
You got
ready.
any crew trim stories? Crew trim, Chris? I love
Oh
to say
man.
crew trim. We're gonna have that on a T-shirt soon, guys. If anybody's interested in merch.
Yeah. I gotta make the channel first before I start selling merch. Oh, there we
Yeah.
go. We got somebody.
Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Got a
Can-
spooky
Hello.
story?
Okay, so I have a story. So I used to work at a bar and a venue. So I work security. So most of the time we wouldn't leave till like 4 a.m. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So as I was walking home, I see a guy in a. It's like he's like in a gray hoodie, but you can't. He's got the hood up and you can't see nothing. You can't see it or anything. He's just facing in his parking lot, and it's a parking lot for. It was a Little Caesars parking lot, but that Little Caesars had been closed since like 10. So I just thought it was weird. And I just continued walking like nothing. Like I just didn't see this weird guy in a hoodie that had no face. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see him stop, look at me, and then start following me. And I was just like, "What the hell is going on here?" Oh, sorry. So I carry. So I had pulled my self defense out, and I'm like, "Okay, turn around. There's no one there." But this is the thing. There was no one there, but there's nowhere he could have went. This was like a big 2-lane road that goes straight to a highway, and there's nothing but like restaurants and everything around. There's nowhere he could have hid. I hear his footsteps, and then I turn around. And there's no one there. It was the weirdest thing I've ever encountered.
Oh, that's
Yeah, that is
interesting.
strange.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
wearing like a. This is the thing. He was wearing a gray pullover hoodie. He had his hands in his pocket, but I couldn't see his face. Like it was just all black. Like there was nothing there. And it was strange, but like, it's 4 a.m. Like I just don't question it and keep going.
Yeah. So kind of like a
But
shadow person in a
so
way.
have to be followed and then turn around, and there's nowhere this guy or whatever it was could have gone. I would either have caught him going across the street or going in between buildings. There was just nothing but open space, to be honest, and it was just so odd.
Yeah, that is interesting. Very spooky. Is that your only paranormal encounter? Is that like your first time with a
Oh
potential
no,
paranormal?
it's not the only from. It's the first. It's the only hoodie person encounter. But I have one from. You ever heard of Lake Kincaid National Park in Kentucky?
I think so, yeah.
So me and a church youth group, when I was trying the train that whole thing, we went to Lake Kincaid National Park for like a retreat. So once sundown hits there, it's pitch black. Like you cannot see literally inches in front of your face. You could put your hand in front of your face and you couldn't see it. So we decided to play manhunt with flashlights. So we're just like, yeah. So I was the first seeker. So we're going, and I catch one of my friends, and then we get to like the middle of where the campground we were at was, and I catch one of my other friends. He's hiding under a picnic table. So once he stands up, this white figure, to me, it looked like a person in a white jacket. It looked like a straight jacket because the sleeves that were really long, and they just bolt across my line of sight right behind him, and you can see it. Me and my other friend could see it, and we were just terrified. It bolted across our line of sight and then runs and dissipates before it even hits the lining of the woods. Because I followed it with my flashlight, because I was so scared, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
Were
straight
you
jacket
able
ghost.
to, yeah, were you able to tell if it was like, kind of like, this is going to sound weird, like missing some parts of its form? Because I've seen
Okay,
apparitions
so
before.
you could see the long sleeves, the jacket thing that they were wearing, but I could not see a face. Like the only thing that you could really look at the figure that was really like disdainable, or I think that's the word, was just that long sleeve jacket thing that they were in. You couldn't really see legs. Like it was kind of like right where the knee line was. You couldn't see anything past that, and their face, you couldn't you couldn't see any features or anything. But it bolted so fast that it was just like a white blur with like long sleeves.
Wow, that's really
I was
interesting.
lucky enough. I was lucky enough not to freeze with fright, but my friend, on the other hand, was so terrified he couldn't move.
Yeah.
That was the probably the first experience I ever had camping. Let's just say that's probably one of the like third to last times I ever camped.
What about the cemetery?
Yeah, I don't blame you.
When we went to the cemetery and we were
Pretty
I
down.
have
scary. Well,
I have a lot of paranormal stories, to be honest, too. I used to live in a town called Osgood, Indiana, and they have a cemetery there. It's called Otter Park or something like that. So it's a cemetery that's pretty well aged. So me, my other, I brought my daughters with me, and my girlfriend and my brother's girlfriend all went to the cemetery, and it was like,
It's like midnight.
was it?
Yeah.
It was around midnight. So we walked through the cemetery, and so the cemetery is in two parts, and there's a gravel driveway in the middle of it. So we were on the right side of the cemetery, and we stopped on the upper, like right when you get there, the beginning of the right side of the cemetery, and they have these like, there's a wooded area like that surrounds the whole cemetery. So you could hear like we were right there at the line, the like right there at the edge of the cemetery, and all you hear was like someone walking to the woods. So I was like, that's odd. Stood there for a minute, and you just kept hearing the cracking sounds, but there was no movement in the trees. They were like these real thin, like skinny, long trees that were like well, like pretty close together, and you just kept hearing crack, 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 and the sound of it. And then I look up and I see my brother and his girlfriend running full speed, and their flashlight, because we see the flashlights flickering, and we're like, "What are they doing?" They run back to the car, get the car, shut the door. I was like, "What are you doing?" It's like, well, you see what had happened was they were at the upper right part of the cemetery, and there's a wooded area. The wooded area has like an opening, and they said they heard like what sounded like the same thing that I heard was sticks cracking, and then they heard footsteps, rapid footsteps, and they took off. We heard the same thing as them, but we were in a different part. We didn't hear the running, but we heard the sticks breaking as someone moving through the woods. But as long as we aimed our flashlights and stuff there, we saw nothing. I made sure to take pictures every time I felt anything like cold, like temperature change or anything, and we really didn't catch anything neither. But we did hear footsteps in the woods. That was crazy. Especially in two separate parts of the cemetery. It's two separate parts of the cemetery.
Right.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. What place did you say that was again?
It's called either Otter Park or Otter Village Cemetery in Osgood, Indiana. I have a second, not what did I say, second-hand account or third-hand account? I had there was a lady that worked with me at the Dollar General in that town, and what was it, 2020? What was it, 2021? They were they were setting up like this little hayride that went through there, and she brought her grandkids with her. Well, her grandkids were playing in the cemetery, and she told them, "Hey, we're not playing in the cemetery." She said they told her, "What about the other two kids?" They were the only children that were there at the time of this hayride. Yeah. And it was in the same area, the same section of the same side, the right side of the cemetery that we experienced the footsteps and the breaking of branches and stuff.
Well, that's really interesting. I'm looking this place up to see how far away it is, so that maybe I can check it out because I'm in Kentucky. So
There's a well, they tore it down recently, but in Ludlow, Kentucky, they have it's supposed to be very active at night. I only went there during the day, but they had used to have they had all the ovens and stuff still somewhat intact. They're all collapsed, and then they had the smokestack. But I think sometime at the ending of last year they had tore it all down. But even if it's remnants of it, it's still pretty active. There's multiple bodies were burned at that incinerator.
very interesting. Well, we appreciate you so much coming up and sharing that with us, and hopefully you hang out and listen to some stories tonight.
Oh, for sure. Maybe next time I can shoot on picture, tell stories.
Yeah, come up later. We'll be on here till about 2 a.m. So if you want, feel free to hop on later. And
Oh
we
yeah,
appreciate you, though.
yeah, for sure. Thank you. You guys have a wonderful rest of your stream.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, tap the screen. Tap, tap, tap. We've got a bunch of people. The box is filling up. See what we've got. Is this Crusader? Hello, welcome.
Hey, how's it
Hello.
going?
Good, how are you?
Doing well. I was kind of scamming through all this stuff, looking at some of the lives, and I caught this. I so sorry. Uh, Winter of 2015, and it's in Colorado. I was at a research facility west of Breckenridge, and we were doing security there, and we'd had to go on patrols, especially when the alarm gates would go off. We'd have to go on patrols, and we would ride four-wheelers since it's a lot of rocky and snowy terrain. One night about 2 a.m., and if anyone's been in a Colorado winter storm around February, you know that it's practically a whiteout. I was riding because our alarm gate kept going off and going off. So I had to go and look at it while I was driving up the little hill. Something knocked me off of my four wheeler. Felt a gust of wind or something. I just thought maybe I turned wrong or whatnot. It was just weird. So once I looked over next to the trees, I saw a shadowy figure with yellow eyes. My first attempt was to call it in or whatever. I shined my light. I couldn't see anything. I heard something like a growl, so I pulled my sidearm and I started firing. I felt really weird at that time. My whole body went into a frozen chill, and I radioed it in, and I had four of the guards meet me where they were. We found nothing in the morning. We found nothing around. The only weird thing is I fired 10 shots. All but two shots were found in a tree stump. So I hit the tree twice, but they can't account to what happened to the other rounds. They don't know where they went. They couldn't track them down after they did the big investigation. And our fence was cut, but it wasn't like a bolt cutter cut. It was more like a scrape cut, like something cut and dented our fence area. So they never figured out what it was after the investigation. I ended up getting fired because I used my firearm and they couldn't tell why I used it, and they couldn't explain as to where those rounds went. So basically, they said that I was having fun in the snow and thought I might just shoot a couple of trees. That was the initial report. So, but yeah, that happened back in, yeah, it was just, man, it was a crazy experience. After that, I got into the cryptids. I never really knew much about cryptid stuff. Um, I, I knew about a werewolf and vampires, but I never knew how much cryptids there were out there. But whatever that was, it scared me. I've been through a lot in life, and that was the most scariest thing I've ever encountered. Just it was a shadowy, dark thing in with yellow eyes, like glowy, like real bright yellow eyes, and the growl. I can't even explain what the growl was. It sounded like a chalkboard, like someone scraping the chalkboard, but with a gurgling sound.
Wow.
Hmm.
So do you think that it was like a Bigfoot or a dogman or
Um, I thought after doing research and just trying to figure out, one of my other buddies who worked with me at that same site, he was talking about dogmen, and then he was also talking about, but they don't have yellow glowing eyes, and we're talking maybe like a wolf or maybe a Wendigo type figure. We weren't sure. Um, and even my jacket, like my jacket that I had on that day, it had like a scrape mark on the backside of it where I got hit on my left side. So I wasn't sure exactly where that came from. I don't know if that was from me hitting the ground or if something had scratched me. But I was just, yeah, we weren't sure. But after looking at that, we went out a few times, just kind of running around the area, driving around, not to get to the facility, but we drove around that whole park area, and we haven't seen anything since then. We've heard noises, but the thing that was unexplained was what happened to our gate. Our fence was bent and some of it was slashed, And then my point is, where did those rounds go? You know, I fired 8 shots and only 2 of them hit the tree.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's a really cool story, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you didn't find like any footprints or tracks or anything like that?
No, by the time we got out of that area, when we went up there, it was just such whiteout. They said that we'll come back in the morning and we'll figure it out, but it snowed all night, covered something up. We didn't even find anything that looked like could have been blood or they found a few of the shell casings. They found 6 of them that they were able to recover from the area. Um, our investigators were on site that a few hours after we had to report it, and they were out there all morning looking, and I had to sit in an office, so they didn't let me go out there and look or tell them. I had to just um, look, and then the cameras in that area, all it saw me doing was standing and shooting. That's all it saw. It didn't show anything else. It didn't. It was pretty white out, but you can tell from the reflectors on my jacket where I was standing, and then you can see the muzzle shots. But other than that, there was nothing else that they can tell.
I mean, I kind of came in um, mid story, but from what I've gathered from it, it almost does sound like it possibly could be of like a Sasquatch or something like that.
Yeah, it was big. Um, it was pretty big. We did they did find the 2 bullets where they hit. They recovered those. And from the tree, they found 6 shells on the floor, but they found that I did shoot. They saw the video from there. One of the investigators said that my demeanor on the video looked panicky because I was trying to reload my weapon. Even though I only fired 8 shots and I had 15, I was still trying to reload, and I kept dropping my magazines, and like I was like looking around, panicking. I had my flashlight, and they're like, what were you doing? They drug test me. They did all kinds of tests just to make sure that I wasn't on anything or intoxicated in any way. Hair samples, blood work, all that. And they all found that I wasn't on anything because I don't drink or smoke or anything like that. So they're like, they didn't explain it. But the only thing that they could explain is they had to let me go because I fired my weapon and there was nothing that I hit, nor was there any tracks. That was the only thing. So I got let go from that company. So
Yeah, that's really unfortunate that you lost your job. You would think that they would have, cut you a little break, especially since they saw the fence was messed up. I mean, obviously something happened. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
yeah, it
And I
sucked. I
just
was
I
off of
just want
work
to
for a couple
say,
of
for
days.
the sake of the algorithm, TikTok, this is for educational purposes only. So because we're trying to be careful about language here, but yeah, educational purposes only. TikTok, we are behaving, but yeah, that's really a pretty terrifying story, and that's prime location for cryptid activity. So no telling what we can care. It's really crazy.
Yeah, since then I was like, wow. I was like, this is insane. I was like, there's these things called cryptids. I was like, I grew up watching X Files, and I always thought that was a cool show. Watch Supernatural here and there, but I never got into that genre or any of these paranormal extraterrestrials cryptid stuff.
I'm
Never
old enough
really
to
got into
remember
it.
Unsolved Mysteries and another one that was lesser known called Sightings.
I recall mysteries, not sightings, but yeah.
I
Like
love sightings.
I started buying all kinds of stuff just to and researching, YouTubing everything that I could just to try and see if there was something that would, you know, pinpoint of what I saw or what I experienced. Even the days after, they're like, "Man, my uh my blood pretty high that day." And even after that, I had a couple of dreams here and there, reliving the situation. Now, when we have full whiteout snows, it brings me back to that night because I try not to go outside. I try and stay inside, and I get like some panicky sometimes. But I also get excited because I want to go out there and see if something's out there again. It's kind of like kind of stuck in that area. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but she also laughs because she heard the stories from my friends of a few times, and they still experience little things here and there. Um, cut wires, the gates messed up. A They had some drones like to for the cameras, and someone had broke into that and smashed everything up, but there was no footage of it. They couldn't see anything of who did it, and this was like 2 years after I got fired from there. So they're like, "Wow, we've had a lot of weird things happen there, but over the years, even before that, we found out that there was a lot of weird things happening in that area around that research facility." um Area where one of the doctors who would go around the area walking, he disappeared for about 6 hours back in 2010. That was way before I was working there. So, but back in 2010, he disappeared for about 6 hours, they said. But when he returned, he said he didn't know what happened. He couldn't explain anything. So they didn't think nothing of it. But it was on file that they recorded. "Oh, you guys know there's something weird that has gone on around here. Why am I getting fired?" And they're like, just it was basically because of that. They couldn't explain. So they're like, if you would have been firing in the other direction, you could have hit somebody or something in the facility. And you don't know if there was people outside of the facility. You didn't watch your background. I was like, I couldn't see my background. I couldn't see anything in my background. It was whiteout basically.
It kind of reminds me of up in Snoqualmie Pass, which is the mountain range up here in Washington State. I recall seeing this video, and it was a remote security camera out in the middle of the woods, basically, and there was snow all over the place. And it was in black and white, and just out of the blue, there was this figure that was walking through the snow in this remote area, and it was captured on film, and it looked like a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And people might say, "Oh, well, it's all set up and stuff." It's like, no, that's out in the middle of nowhere that they had this.
Yeah. I asked I I wanted to take them to court, because I felt like I was fired on wrong grounds, and due to my written report and my blood and drug test. But they said that it was never going to reach court. Nothing will ever happen of it. It doesn't seem like they're not going to use any of that, and none of that stuff would have been used as me seeing something in the snow, and my mind just ran with it, and it kind of would have made me look crazy, is what they said. um but the company ended up just paying me out for my full contract, and added on a year's contract pay, and basically just said goodbye. I was able to get other jobs in private security because they didn't write anything negative for me, which I thought that was grateful. But I kind of feel like that was just them telling me to shut up and take the money and find a different job.
Could be that they know that there's something out there, and they just don't want anybody to talk.
Yeah, I mean, even before that, we see a lot of like, jets flying out there, Black Hawk helicopters out there a lot. We saw a lot of military Humvees
Where's
in
this
the
at?
area before. I don't want to say exactly where, but it's west of Breckenridge, Colorado.
Okay, okay. Not familiar
Yeah,
with the area.
I uh, I had a, I had it's about 15 miles west in deeper into the mountains of Breckenridge, Colorado, and I did have to sign a paper saying that I won't give out the name of the facility, but they never
NDS.
said I couldn't talk about it.
ND
They never said it.
non
So
NDA.
yeah, I had to
Non-disclosure
sign
agreement.
that, and I was like, all right, I'll sign this, but I could still tell my story, not mention names or anything. So
Yeah.
we kind of laugh about that. My brother makes fun of me because he said I just wanted attention, but I've never been one person to want attention. But he just kind of laughs about that until he saw me in a panic one night, and he's like, "Yeah, that was a real panicking, dude. It was barely snowing outside, and you started flipping out." I was like, "Yeah." So, um, lately I've been pretty
Yeah,
good
that's what I
about
was
that
trying to
when
put
it
down.
snows, but yeah, that's my experience. It was kind of a crazy one.
Yeah, it definitely sounds pretty intense. We really appreciate you coming up and sharing that with us.
Thank you guys for letting me share this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm gonna keep listening to you guys' show, and I hope you guys have a good night.
Alrighty, thanks. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, tap the screen, tap, tap, tap. Let's get the number up, get some people in here. Double Up has been waiting patiently for a good long time now, so thank you for waiting, Double Up. Hopefully, you're still with us. Oh, I think they might be going.
Fingers
Double Up.
river dancing on the screen, trying to get as many taps as I can. Damn it!
It's like a little game. If you tap it enough, it gives you
Mhm.
like a little challenge bar that you can fill up.
Yep.
I do that sometimes. Double Up, if you are still here, feel free to come back. Hello, welcome. Good, how are you?
Good.
Not bad.
Times, and I have a story I'd love to share about a UAP that myself and a girlfriend at the time saw. It was a few years back. I don't really have the date memorized or anything, but it was a night in which you were supposed to be able to see Mars and I think it was Uranus. We were out stargazing in particular to try to see those planets within the constellations. UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena.
It's the new phrase for UFO.
Yeah, it was because we couldn't say it was flying necessarily, but it was in the air. Uh, and so we weren't stargazing necessarily, but during this observation, uh, we witnessed these three stars in particular, or I'll call them stars because that was what they appeared to be. They uh, vertically down, just straight down for a surprising distance, and then all three of them disappeared all at the same time. Uh, and we both saw it. I freaked out. I was just like, "Did you see that?" And she looked at me and she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Can you describe what you just saw? Because I need to make sure that you just saw the same thing as me." And she said word for word what exactly what I saw, and like we went over and just like made sure that it was above tree line, and it absolutely was. Like there was no way it like was something that just went behind something. It was within the sky field, if you will, um, and the there was no like acceleration to the movement. Like it was just instantaneous from the three star shapes standing still to them moving down really quickly, and then they disappeared. And that was kind of the end of it. We did like a lot of research trying to find anyone else who had seen like anything like this before. I haven't come across anybody who's witnessed anything like that in particular. Um, but the story has stuck with me. So
Yeah. It sounds a lot like a lot of incidents that I've heard, and kind of similar to some of the sightings that I've had. So yeah, that's definitely sounds like a UFO.
yeah, absolutely. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it
Yep.
weirded us both out, and after a while, you just kind of stop thinking about it because nothing came of it. Like it was just this weird, isolated event, and
Yeah, definitely. Well, we appreciate you so much coming up and sharing that with us.
yeah, absolutely. Uh, I'll be enjoying the show. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Very
Yes.
cool.
A UFO story. Awesome.
Yeah, I love UFO stories. I feel like we don't get enough. But then again, is there such thing as enough UFO stories? I can't get enough.
Ever heard of a SETI Ranch? I
Yeah.
believe it's on the western side of the state near the border of Canada, if I'm not mistaken. Or, sorry, Oregon. Gilliland is another name for it. Supposedly it has a lot of UFO. I'm pretty sure it's by
Hmm.
Trout Lake. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Welcome, TJ. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How about y'all?
Hanging in there.
That's good. That's good. I'll go back and tell you a little story about this. Kind of goes way back to 1985. I call it way back. I guess it don't feel like way back to me, but it goes back to, I was probably about 10 years old. And my mom had met a new man. She had met a guy, and they had lived in an old house that was built, I think it was built in 1890 something. That was an is an old home. We lived in it for many, many years, and didn't do a whole lot to it. And to be honest with you, there was some furniture that was left in the home from way back when. And we had a wardrobe in that home. And I'm talking, when I say wardrobe, this thing was like huge. It was had a big angel's head at the top of it, and uh, probably 6 foot tall, probably 4.5 foot wide, something like that. And this old wardrobe was always creepy looking, but I was fascinated with it as a young boy growing up. I was really fascinated with the wardrobe. It was rickety looking, and it just had a smell to it like you wouldn't believe. Most people, that if you've ever been in an old home, like a really old home, that's like the smell of dirt and smell of mildew and things like that. Um, I'm guessing that this thing uh, had it. I'm not really 100% sure, but I would go to that thing at night and put my clothes in it, and the next morning I'd wake up and the doors would be open on it. Drawers would be open, and I'd ask Mom, had she opened it up? She would say no, no, she hadn't touched it. And
Poltergeist?
I was fascinated with getting in it all the time, and it had scribble marks on it up, like on the top of it. Somebody had took and scratched different marks on the top of it and drawed pictures in it. It looked like actually a kid had done stuff inside of it. Well, many, many years we had that thing, and I had never really gotten the story on it. And sometime in the 90s, we were deciding we were going to get a bunch of that old furniture out of that house, and we took that old wardrobe out and was going to burn it. And when I throwed it in the fire, we actually had an old piece of equipment, and we dropped that thing in the fire, and probably for 10 minutes straight, the wood would not burn. I'm talking, this is like old rickety wood that's dried out, should have literally blazed up like flames, and it wouldn't burn. and probably about 3 to 4 minutes into it not really doing anything much, the awfulest sound came out of that thing, like a firework. It sounded like a woman screaming, and it done it for probably 5 minutes straight, and nobody knew what it was. And finally, the thing started burning. It quit making that sound and it started burning. And I had asked my stepdad about it. I said, "What, who did that thing belong to?" Because we didn't really know what the sound was, and he told me that it belonged to his dad's sister. So it went back many, many generations, and his sister there was something wrong with her. She was special. She was actually really short, and she couldn't talk plain, and something was wrong with her. Well, that had actually got choked and passed inside of that wardrobe. And I didn't know nothing about it. And they told me about the story of it. And then once we burnt that thing and it acted weird, we was all kind of freaked out. So it was like the spookiest thing that I'd ever, and I kind of went back in my own memory how many times I played in that wardrobe and the things that it actually done, to me and had me weirded out a lot of times. I never knew the story about it until we burned it in probably around 90 or 91. So that is just something. And the sound to this day, I can hear it in my head, that screaming sound. Like I said, it sounded like a firework inside of it. And I found pieces of toys in it. I found everything in that thing.
Sounds like the first thing that came to mind instead of poltergeist, because you'd mentioned like things moving around and whatnot, but the fact that it is a piece of furniture that this is taking place in, the first thing that actually came to mind was a Dybbuk box.
What now?
Dybbuk box. It's from Jewish folklore. I think they're like supposed to be malicious spirits or something along those lines. They were trapped in objects.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it sounded like to me. And then once I heard the story about it, it really, really creeped me out, man. I mean, I found a little porcelain doll head in that thing that was stuck in the bottom of it. I'd actually pulled one of the drawers out of the bottom of it and found that little porcelain doll head that was in there. And just the scribbles on top of it and the things that little girl had scribbled on top of that, probably in the 1920s. I'm guessing this thing was probably 1920s, 1930s wardrobe. And it was a real ugly color. It was like an orange wood, and it was like so many different panels of wood inside of it. It was just a creepy old box. But like I said, I couldn't ever keep the doors closed on it. I would hear stuff. I would actually get in it myself and just, sit in it for hours at a time and play inside of it, me 10 years old.
Do you
And
remember you said there was like markings inside of it. Do you remember what any of them looked like?
Not really. It was just like maybe triangles, and it's like a kid had made them. You know what I'm saying? A kid had like scribbled inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't with a marker or crayon. It looked like almost with a knife. To be honest with you.
It's a shame that you aren't able to remember exactly what it looked like, because that sounds like they were inscribing sigils or runes or something into the box itself, which could lend to the whole concept of it having something attached to it.
I think the girl choked whenever she was like 13. She was probably 13 years old, but like I said, she couldn't talk. She was kind of a special child. I don't think she could walk properly. She couldn't really talk. And I heard a lot of stories about her and saw pictures of her growing up. And every time I saw a picture of her, it kind of just weirded me out knowing that wardrobe belonged to her, having it in my room all those years.
Huh.
That's really cool,
Well,
though.
we appreciate you. Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate you, TJ, for
Yep.
coming up and telling us about that.
Yeah, you're welcome, guys. I'll stick around and listen to y'all.
Alrighty.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Very cool. I saw somebody in the comments was wanting to come up and tell a story. And I believe you were here last night. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you up because I remember your name. If it'll connect.
I was
Is it
there
connect?
last night.
Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Hi, welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got a story for you, and it just happened a couple of days ago, actually. Um, I'd been having a lot of trouble. Let's just say my life kind of went into a whirlwind about 4 or 5 months ago, and so I ended up coming back to my home, well, where I'd been living down in Colorado, and that's when I joined TikTok about a month or so ago, and. So anyway, I put up my site and everything, and I put up a lot of things what happened to me through my life with God, blah blah blah. But went out here 3 nights ago, and the sun was just going down. So I went out there to do a panorama to put on my TikTok, right? So as I was doing the panorama, I seen something kind of click, you know, on the video, and so I kind of hit it, and there's a full-fledged manifestation. You can see it on my site. It's real and it's not photoshopped. I wouldn't know how to do that. But there's a full-fledged manifestation, a demon. But it's actually got the altar on the bottom. The pendulum's on the bottom. It comes up into the altar. The altar goes up into the sacrificial part where you put the sacrifice. The smoke's coming up, and you can see the demon. And he actually has his hands out and their hooves. And as you can see his forehead, you can see everything. It's real. It's on my site. I can't, I don't know how to get in there and send it to you, but you can get up on Just a Man and look at it. And I've got up 15. One of them is really, really beautiful because it's like, I took like, it looks black, but there's a sliver coming down. But if you get into that picture, you can actually see all there's smoke coming off both sides. And you can tell it's different than the sunset. But it was done right over here. I don't know if you guys keep up with, or I'm from Colorado. Yeah. People over here that went into that earth movement about burying the bodies and they go back to the earth or whatever. Well, they got busted by the police anyway, and now they're each going to do some time in prison. But they had just threw the bodies out there. Well, they hadn't found them all. They said they're still missing 9. Well, they had just bulldozed it. And while I was doing my video there, you can see it. All of the original videos in there, and then I took it down to the what do you call it, the T-Mobile, because that's who I'm with, and the kid's really good with them. So he was able to take it down frame for frame. So there's frames in there that you can see, and there's no doubt it's the altar, it's the whole thing. What you would do to sacrifice.
Can you describe what the demon?
Because I was into that stuff when I was a kid. I'm sorry.
What the demon looks like? What the demon looks like?
Yeah, he's got the. It's almost like you'd have to look at it. It looks like a veil, like a on the top, gray head. But when you look at it, it's got the pierced ears, and then it's split right down the middle on the forehead, and then it comes down into the eyes. I mean, this you can see it. This isn't something that you really have to look for. It's right in your face. You know, and if you get into the one picture, if it's on my site, it's just a man, and you can get into all of it. But take a look at it, because there's probably about 8 or 9 pictures I had the guy do that stuff. So he just split it down frame for frame, and he took it out of the video and put it into single frame on some of those, so you can really see the demon. You won't have no problem. You know, I'm serious. Even in the sunset.
The reason that I was inquiring about the demon is because there's a lot of imagery that might be mistaken as demonic that could also be more or less in reference to some of the pagan nature deities, such as the figure of Pan, which is a satyr, or even one that is found within the pantheon that I follow, which is Kerninos, which is the horned god. More often than not, though, he tends to be
Well,
representing animals instead of horns.
he kind of has, but not equivalent. If you look at the original picture, you'll see it. They're beautiful. But look, whatever. I can't tell you what kind, but I can tell you how that story went because I asked Lord, what am I battling? I'm looking at it the other end. I got it as the Christian end. And my life fell apart. I couldn't figure out what it was that came against me because I knew it was demonic. It wasn't so much that, it was demon.
I believe we are
What?
losing you, just a man. We are losing you. You're cutting out. You're cutting out very, very badly.
Oh,
Let me drop you out of the box, and you come right back, okay? And we'll try this again.
okay.
Yeah, we'll give you
Yeah, I
just a
was
second.
noticing
Come
the
right back.
reception was a bit rough too, so it was kind of hard to.
Yeah. Give him just a second to come right back. Hopefully he can. His connection was very poor,
Yeah.
unfortunately. All right, guys. While we wait for him to come back, everybody tap the screen, send some likes. If you are a fan of horror, all things horror movies, horror pop culture, follow Chris. And if you like witchy stuff, follow Druid, my lovely co-hosts. Always up here helping out and telling people cool stuff and just making the show awesome. We appreciate that. So come follow. Oh, is he going to connect? Oh, righty, you're back.
Okay, I
Yeah,
see
I
you
can help a little.
first purchase something, but it's all good. Am I still there? I lost
Yeah,
you
we can
again.
hear you.
Oh, yeah. So, anyway,
Oh,
because I look at it as a Christian point of view. And what I seen was a total demon. This thing, and actually, what I attributed it to was the rulers of the kingdoms of the earth, because it's not one of the medium ones at all. This is full blown, try to scare the hell out of me kind of thing. But I don't scare with that stuff. It doesn't bother.
Never did
What I
understand
see,
the whole concept of demon. Especially if they're supposed to lure you into, the acts of sin. It seems like they would have come to you as something that's more appealing, but that's just me.
well, no, see,
How was
there
that
that
podcast?
would be true. I would agree with you there, except he'd already been there. He destroyed everything I had. And then I actually had a witch coven get a hold of me because this is my site. You could get on there. The witch coven got a hold of me a couple of days later. Okay, the covens. And then the head witch, and she said, well, I know you guys don't do the gut thing, but he told me whatever they put upon you is going to come back upon them. So 2 days or the next day, I get a thing, and you can tell. I could tell anyway. And there was a picture of the calc. I've got 5,000 on one. I'm way a lot of people anyway. But I seen her, and I knew, and I touched it. And sure enough, she told me, "Well, you know what? I don't know who you are." She said, "But they've been doing this stuff for me." You know what I mean? You look at this is how I look at it, and this is what she was saying. I didn't say it, and I didn't get a hold of her. She got a hold of me, and she's like, what everything they tried to put on you, they cast their spells, but they came back on them. A few of them died. The other ones were sick. It went to the doctor, and they can't fix it. And I said, well, I understand that because I have a different plane of how I look at things. You know what I mean? But it actually went back upon them, and they died. You know what I mean? I knew what it was because if you look in the demonic realm, not paranormal, I get into that too. I've got some stuff there too. But this to me was a soul situation. But if you really truly just take a look at it and tell me what you think, because you can see him looking right at you.
I
There's
am a
no doubt
druid.
about it. And he's got the pointed ears.
Yeah,
But so yeah,
that's
I would
kind
be
of why I'm
interested.
questioning, is because I know people that tend to practice from the Ars Goetia, which is, I guess, what counts what would be considered as black magic because it pertains to the
Yeah.
research, study, and control of demonic entities and how to basically bind them to your will. I believe I actually sent that to our lovely host, as a matter of fact, was the, quite fascinating stuff. So for me, if I was to see the picture, I would see it outside the scope and lens of what a Christian might see it, because I'd be more versed in essentially the pagan gods and how they've been demonized and made into these evil creatures during the historical conquest, in which, throughout the Middle Ages, they basically, when the church came, they started to take a lot of the old practices and whatnot and find ways to twist them so that they were seen in a much more negative light. So because in more of our modern culture, we tend to see things that would have been considered, again, like the nature spirits or something along those lines, we would see them as normal people would see them as demons.
Well, let's say this here, where you'll see it, you just got to look, because you can see the flame coming off the altar. You can see through the littler pieces if you zoom in. At the bottom of that, you got the pendulum, and then it comes up into the sacrificial, into the plate, okay? Into the plate where they put the sacrifice. Out of the smoke, the smoke is coming up. Out of the smoke at the very top, you'll see him. So it isn't like, no, I can't go along with that. I say just take a look. If you want to see a true demon, take a look, because they exist. Okay, you can't have demons unless you have God, and you can't have God unless you got demons. It's a zig and
Well,
zag. You know what I mean? And
I
so
actually
that's how I look
disagree
at it.
with
But
yeah, I was
that.
going to say
I
I
think that,
disagree.
yeah, you can absolutely have entities and creatures without any type of gods. So,
oh, okay. Well, I can see
but
where you
Druid, I
guys
know that you're
are at.
more well versed on.
Again, it's kind of along the same lines of, because certain people have different practices. If you look at the origin and history of different faiths and whatnot, because of where my practice comes from, the Semitic spirits, be they good or evil, literally have zero bearing on me. So, it's for somebody to mention angels and demons, it's like, okay, cool, that's nice. I'm glad, yeah.
Well, I would look
Well,
at yours
listen,
and laugh and say,
we
because
really
you just
we really
gotta look.
appreciate you
All I'm
coming up.
asking
I've
is to
got some
take a
more
look and tell
guests
me.
that I need to try to get to, but
Okay,
we appreciate you coming up and sharing your
no
story with
problem.
us. And yeah, have a good night. We
Well,
appreciate you.
it's all there.
All right, guys, tap the screen. Tap, 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 tap. I know we've got someone coming up. Right back. So hopefully
Ali.
she gets in. Oh, Ollie's here.
Yep.
Now the party can start. He's supposed to have some updates for us on some stuff. So, all right, guys, we got Amy up next. Ollie, I'm gonna go ahead and bring you up as well. Hope that's okay.
Hi.
Hi,
Hello, welcome.
How you doing?
Amy.
Good.
Hello.
How are you?
Pretty good. My name's Amy. I live in West Virginia, actually pretty close to Ashland, so I'm kind of close to you there in Kentucky. Um, my earliest memories of my whole life have been of the paranormal. I can. Oh, I've got a lot of stories, but ones that I think are that everybody would love to hear. When I was about 12, and I was up in my room, and I had recently been taking some piano lessons from this Pentecostal lady. Well, nobody ever believed me with like that I could sense energy and sense, spirits and things. They all, because my family was very religious, and
Clairsentient.
yes. So I ended up kind of having this experience with. My house was very old. You could tell when somebody was walking, upstairs. And I heard somebody walk out of the bathroom and slam the door. Well, that was normal if it was like, spring, summer, we'd leave the bathroom window open and the suction would slam the door shut and so whatever. So, but it was winter and I'm like, So some things that lady had told me, was like just kind of, say, you're, if you're an evil spirit, you're not allowed to be here and blah, blah, blah. So I did that. And I had always had experiences in this house, but this was the first time I ever confronted it. And so I heard it walk back to the bathroom, open the door, and slam it back. And so I had to go see. I was like, okay, let me make sure that this window's shut because that's the only way that anything like that's going to happen. So I went and lo and behold, the window was shut. And so that was one experience. I never was scared of it. When I was growing up, I would see things like I remember being like 4 years old in my parents' bed, and I was sitting up watching a toy train, like the collectors. They get the little small trains and the tracks and put them on plywood. And I can remember seeing something like that in their bedroom, and I'm thinking, we don't have anything. I didn't even know what that was at the time, but I can remember things from the time I was little until. Well, all my life. But in that house, we lived until I was 21. And another really neat thing, I had to go to bed at 9 when I was a kid. And so I'm laying in my bed, and my mom was at home. It was just me and her. She was in the basement doing some laundry. And I remember her, she was like, I'm going to run in the bath water. I'll be right back up here. I said, okay. So I heard somebody coming up the steps, and I saw a shadow. The bathwater turned off. I could hear somebody splashing around, and I'm like, Mom, hey Mom, and she never did answer me. And not within a minute or two, here she came up physically up the steps and said, thanks for turning my water off. I was scared it was going to overflow. And I was just like, that wasn't me. Excuse me. But as an adult, when I lived there, we rented our house because my parents had built a new one, and I was getting ready to get married, so I was living there by myself. And that's when things turned. It was like I would wait, like I would be in that point of sleep where you're just about ready to fall asleep, and you like something jars you or something wakes you up, and I look, and there is 3 hooded figures standing over me. And I shut my eyes again, and then I opened up, and they were gone. But a couple nights later, something said my name in my ear, like so plain and clear and loud. And it was just, it got to where it was creepy. I just couldn't handle it anymore. But I think I do have a little bit of the Appalachia witchy, stuff that goes in my family. I love it. I embrace it totally. I try to, there's lots of people that they don't believe things that have happened, and that's fine because I know that they did. And like my Christmas the other day, told somebody that they said, do you ever hear things? And he's like, oh, just sometimes, like if there's a spirit around, I might. He's kind of caught a little bit of my, I think he's got a little bit of my genes when it comes to that. But yeah, just a whole lifetime. I could go on with stories, but I hate to take up everybody's time.
Oh, you're fine. Tell us another one.
Yeah, I mean, from the
if you
sound
want.
of it, you definitely sound as though you have clairsentience, and if you're able to see them, then you also would have clairvoyance as well.
Well, I've never really been able to see them. I've seen shadow people, but as far as um, a, like a figure, I've never seen anything. I only sense its energy, and I'll sense like if it wants me there or not. For instance, I worked in for a group home and had to go around the town and give medications because I was a nurse for 25 years.
Okay.
Um, and which in a way kind of goes into I feel like a lot of times that I was born to be a healer. And
Same.
I don't mean like, I'm going to cure cancer or anything, but there's a lot of things that I do for people that I can kind of help them out and point them
Same.
in the right direction and things. And I think a lot of that goes into with my nursing. Um,
I
but
get it. I'm a caregiver, so I totally understand.
yeah, and when you're
Yeah,
called
I'm
to
a
do
medical
something
professional.
like that, that's a passion. That's something that's put inside of you that, you can't deny. Even though I don't practice anymore, if something happens, I'm the first one to run to the situation. Um, but anyway, uh, I had went to this one house. I was in training, so they were taking me around with another nurse. And she was like, okay, I need you to go down to the basement. There's a little mini fridge, and that's where we kept the insulin, and we needed to record the temperature. And I was like, okay. Soon as I got to the bottom step, I felt like a wall of energy that was like, who are you and what do you want? And I've always just talked to whatever this energy is that I sense. Like, no matter where it is, if it's, any place that I encounter that I can feel something and that it can sense me, I'll just talk to it. Like it's they're just anybody. Like they deserve the respect just like anybody else does. So I'm just like, I'm sorry I intruded in your space. I just came down here for my job. I need to look in that refrigerator and I will be out of here and I will never come back down here again. So they, it backed off. I could feel it back off. I've never felt scared like around anything. I've never been in a situation where something has like terrified me. Although I've always like not not any shade to anybody that likes to play with like divination things like tarot, not tarot. Tarot's fine. I'm kidding. Um, a Ouija board. I've always told my son, please, 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 because we're sensitive, and I don't want you inviting anything in, by mistake because you just didn't know or whatever. Like myself, I read runes, but I just, I've just always tried to steer clear of certain things, and I've just always had it. Even though nobody ever told me that, it was just like it was something in me that knew. And I've been friends with people that they're are generational witches, and they call me for um, advice, like what should I do with this or that, and I'm like, well, this is what I would do. I mean, and I've never had anybody teach me that, but it's just something that I know. And it's an odd feeling, but it's something I feel really confident in too. And I don't want to, like try and teach my son. I'm like, there's a fine line between being confident and cocky. Don't take it over the edge, But I just have always felt confident with anything that I've told people, um, that or advice that I've given, and I don't just randomly go out and give people. If they want to know something, they'll ask, and that's fine. I'll tell them. Um, but I have a lot of Native American in my family, and then my dad's side is Scottish. So I kind of started going into, at one point, studying a little bit of Seether. That's with the Norse Um,
Yes,
witchcraft.
they do magic, which is one of the practices that is only done by women, the other one being vulva. And I believe the only god that ever broke the rules, of course, being Odin, when he traded his eye for the knowledge of the runes.
Right. Yeah. I like to know all about, every spirituality. It's just always, and it's always made sense to me. Um, and it's funny how my path throughout my life, I can look back and see where I have information and that I have, like when I went to, I was raised in a Baptist church, but I always had questions, you know.
My condolences. So was I.
Nobody ever could answer me, I just didn't get it. But I could always see the correlation between all of the spiritualities around the world and the similarities, and know that, you know, I'm not wrong for questioning, and, to each their own. But I really, embrace a lot of different types of spiritualities. And I hate to say religion, because to me that's just something, you do 3 days a week. Spirituality to me is like it's something that's within you that you live by. And I don't know. But everything did start out in my life as just being very sensitive to paranormal things, and throughout the years that grew. If you have time, I got one last story.
I mean, I'm
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes,
So
yes.
as soon as I graduated nursing school, I was 21 years old. I had went to Marshall for a little while, never could get any classes I needed, so I ended up going to the VOTEC, got my LPN degree. So I worked in a nursing home in a county here nearby, and I had this little lady. She was in one of our rooms that we would give to patients and their families when it was getting close to the end for them. And so every time I would go in there, I worked evening shift, she would say, "Honey, there is a booger over there in the corner." And I'm like, "Okay, well, do you want me to leave the light on then?" She said, "Yeah, because if you turn it off, he'll come over here." And so after about the second, third night, I'm like, do you want me to, kind of like, do you want to do something? Like, do you want me to try and help get him out of here or anything? And she's like, "Well, my pain pill, it just isn't working because he's making me so upset and blah, blah, blah." And I've never been taught this. I wasn't taught this in nursing school, and where she was Christian, she prayed. But what I did is that, and I don't know what this is called. I've tried to figure it out for years, but I moved my hands like over a person, like their energy field, and try to get to where I feel, to me, it feels like heat. And then I kind of grab it and I throw it off. I just throw it in the corner or something. And after doing that for like maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and while she prayed, um, she she felt so much better. She said he was gone. Um, and I never did think anything else about that
Have you
again
ever
until,
considered looking into Reiki?
yeah. I have a friend, actually. She's a master Reiki. Um, I haven't talked to her in a few years because at the time I wasn't. I was just kind of getting into crystals and the healing with that, and kind of exploring things, because we had took a trip to Sedona, and that's where it all started. I had like a spiritual awakening there, pretty much. Um, but I mean, it's just so fascinating to me. I love learning about it. I've had somebody tell me that that's transmutation, and I'm like, what? No. Because the energy that I take doesn't affect me. Um, I don't know. It's just really interesting, and I love watching your all's lives, and anything that I can find that I don't know about to try and educate myself, or to try and learn, maybe to give me some ideas of, what this is that I can do. But I tell you what, it's like when I do that now, I have to have like Wardruna on, or, something. I have to have that tribal beat and be able to just go into. I used to trance out in church and have visions. I mean, so that's why it's like you can't tell me that what I've done, like, my Christian family and stuff, they can't tell me that there's something wrong, that I'm evil, because I would do that in a church. Um, it's just insane. But it's so
Sounds
hard
like
to
a form of
find people
energy
to talk
healing,
about this with too.
which makes me think that if you were to get into Reiki, you would actually be quite good at it. It's something I would seriously consider if you're able to pull energy like that. That's also within the grounds of psychic vampirism too, but that different
Yeah.
way of doing things with that.
Yeah, I mean, I was born into an Abrahamic faith. I still kind of have roots of my faith, but the thing is, as I was always born seeing and hearing a lot, and without any guidance from people who found me as when I was young by multiple tribes and raised. I would probably be not a medical professional. I would probably be in the asylum. Because who knows how many people who are gifted don't think of their gifts as such and get lost in that translation. But it's really refreshing to see like other healers like in the profession who are also on the other side of things, because you learn the science of it in the mundane world, but you also walk the other line, and it's actually freedom if you
Yeah.
think of
Yeah. And I have really, I had a bad experience in my life, back in 2020 to 21, with a relationship that really kind of helped me focus in with folks to help them with trauma, um, childhood trauma, any kind of, really, sexual trauma. Thank goodness it wasn't me. It was my boyfriend at the time. It was something that had happened to him in the military, but that whole situation, and it brought out even more um, of things that it was just like, when I meet somebody, I'm like, please, please, please let me. I want to help you so bad. I feel like I can kind of help open your eyes to where you can see that you can get through this
Just
when you think you can't.
one
You
thing I
know.
would definitely recommend as somebody that um, was kind of in the same boat, I guess you could say, is make sure that you protect and ward yourself, because it sounds like you also have empathic qualities. And if you're not careful, there are people that can acknowledge that in a way that's not necessarily positive. So you have to make sure that you protect yourself. I guess as spiritually as, depending on what spirituality you follow, it's a good idea to, keep those protections up.
And I do that now, because at that time, that's when I was beginning to learn. And like a week after I came back from Sedona is when I met this fella. And, it just completely turned my whole life upside down. And, but I know now, like, even if a friend calls me in the night and they're like, there's something here at this house, please come over here. I've got like obsidian, my selenite wand. I'm like ready to go, and I start talking to whatever, the entity or the spirit or the energy, whatever, before I get there, and I lay down my laws. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. You're not, you stay, if you go to wherever it is you're going to go, that's fine, but you're not going to get in my car and come home with me. You're not attaching yourself to me. You're not attaching yourself to anything here, and you're not going to harm anybody, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I have my whole list, of things that I do, but I do, like, I keep my sage and Palo Santo by the bath. It's like that. That's always been a very calming thing to help me cleanse off a lot of the bad energy. Because, like you say, people are drawn to me, and I have been taken advantage of, like, so badly. But that taught me such a lesson. And, I always believe that there's got to be a lesson in mistakes. That's how we learn. And that was a mistake that I had made by, maybe trusting a little too soon and not paying attention to things like signs and the fact I was being mirrored and such, to where,
Discernment.
yeah. Yes. But I appreciate you all listening to me and all
Yeah,
my.
thank you.
Thank you, Amy, for coming up.
I love
Yeah.
listening to y'all when you're on, so maybe I'll remember a few more and holler at you next time.
Of course.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thanks, you too. All right, everybody, tap the screen. Let's try to get up to, let's see, what are we at? We're at 29. Let's get to 35,000, guys. Come on, we
Yes.
can do it.
Just tap. I'm doing the triple tap. Like, super. What I miss?
Oh, we've had a pretty busy night. We've had some really good stories so far. I think the first story was like, what was that on my forehead? There was something on my forehead. Was that it looked like a little person. Holy cow, that was weird. We had a werewolf or like a Bigfoot story. That was really cool. Yeah, it's been busy in here tonight though.
Gosh, I need to like make a timer or something. I do have a little itty bitty story for you guys.
Okay.
Something that's been haunting my mind, and it's kind of funny, but it's one of the earliest, I would say, hauntings that I can remember. And I remember this quite clearly because I could never figure out what was going on. And I remember this, and my mom does too, because this was before my sister was around like 3-ish. I was newly 3. I don't know, my mom wasn't really pregnant with my sister at that time. I was visiting family in Austin or San Antonio. And so here's the funny thing. So we were visiting family, my mom's side, and I was small. I was intelligent enough. I remember things, and I was small enough to lay on my mom's belly when she slept. Like I was very lightweight child. So, so basically, my cousin was telling us a ghost story, and he was just trying to scare me, or something like that. And well, he was like, "There's a ghost that comes at night and goes to everyone's rooms and bothers them. He touches them or pinches them, and every time he touches them, it feels like it's a pinch or a shock, and then he just goes away." And I'm just like, "Yeah, right." And he's like, "Yeah," and he described the ghost to me too. And you know how he described the ghost? It's like a whole Scooby-Doo thing. Like it's a ghost, it's a whole white guy, it's a white, ghost floating around and everything. And all you see is just two little dark holes. And so come the night, it's just like, it's a small house. So I'm sleeping with my mom and my aunt and my dad and everybody. So I'm kind of observant because somehow the story got to my head. And this little ghost story my cousin was telling me, the little butt. So um, somehow I'm okay, kind of paying attention. And then I kind of fall asleep. I'm on my mom at this time. Like, I'm just like, snuggled up against her. And I hear a door open, right? And lo and behold, I see this tall, white, ghostly figure come through. Mind you, this is exactly, my eyes were open. My aunt and my mom were like snoring, dead asleep. I was kind of open, very quiet, did not want to move. And this was summertime. So he was coming. This ghost was covered in a blanket with two dark holes inside. Now, mind you, this is a blanket, okay? This to me is like a white blanket. So this ghost comes to the door and, is coming around, walking around like it's floating around. Like, I don't hear footsteps, but I'm really like, that's gotta be my cousin. But, being a little kid, I'm kind of like scared. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is the story. This is it. So the ghost comes around, pinches my mom, kind of. I see my mom's still asleep, so I can feel her leg just like jerk a little, and then he pinches me. And that's what I felt. He touched me and he pinches me. And he pinches my aunt on the foot. And then I see it go away. And I'm kind of like teary eyed because he's going to do it again. Because, like, why you pinch me, man? And so he disappears into this closet or in this room. And I thought this was a Jack and Jill bathroom at this point. Um, yeah. So come the morning, I kind of wake up. I'm the first one to open my eyes. I get up and I kind of like walk through, like I wanted, like, it's light. I can see the light come through the windows now. So I'm not afraid, right? Who's gonna go check that closet when that thing went back in the closet? I'm not Scooby doing that. So I get up, I go in the morning and I kind of like crack open that closet door. And apparently there's no other entrance there. It's just a closet. It's a closet. There's no way, no how something could have left that place. So, as a child, I think that's my first ghost experience. I cannot fathom if it was real or not. And knowing my cousin was an older, like teen, like a preteen, I highly doubt he was gonna stay in there for quite 2 hours. I highly doubt he was gonna stay in there for 2 hours and, like, not fall asleep or something. So so that's just the thing. I was kind of like, was it a ghost? Was he lying? That just haunted me, and I just, that's the closet monster story that I had. And I brought it up with my mom. I don't know why. It just like kind of out of nowhere, kind of like haunted me. The thought in the back of my head.
Someone said that your laughing is adorable, and I agree, Ollie.
Oh, thank you. And I did have an update about that ghostly figure, because
Yeah.
today, the ghost that I met at the cafe, and this was a shocker because today I actually went to a conference towards Katie, and then I went back to the area with my coworkers, and I kind of went to the graveside area where the cafe was. Yes, Cafe Cat Mama. And I looked around towards the grave sites, and um, I saw a name that was kind of familiar. It was Watson. Watson. And it was Genevieve Watson. And I was like, Genevieve Watson. And the timing was 2000, and the death day was around 2008, it said. Loving mom, loving aunt, Watson family, Louisiana. Like there was a whole bunch of things, and so the thought of me came, and I called up my best friend, who and like basically adopted me into her hoodoo family, and I called her up and I was like, "Hey, do you know a Genevieve Watson?" And she's like, "How do you know that name?" And and I was just like, I'm at a gravesite and it's Watson, and it's the only Watson in Katy, and I just didn't know. I just thought that I don't know you. Your last name is Watson because her last name is Baisha Watson. So it was like your maiden last name is Watson. And so, do you know this person by any chance? And she's like, yes. She was my mom's young sister. She was our aunt. She passed away of of cancer. So, and that's was we were in high school at that time. I didn't never met her, by the way. Like I never met her, Chris. I never met the lady at all. And it was kind of comforting in a time of need that that kind of connection was there. And Baisha started to cry on the phone. She's like, "Oh my god, I haven't seen her in a long time. How is she doing?" And I was like, "Okay, homegirl, hold on." I was just sitting in this new cafe over here that I'm. This was nothing but a like plain grass area, and that became a parking lot, like way across the road over here. And I guess I was visited by her, but I gave her a picture, like I gave her like a description of how I saw her, and she's like, that was her favorite outfit she made from silk and silk and material from Africa. And so the way that I described and the way I saw the lady and the way she was and the whole interaction I shared with my friend, and the poor girl, she was just crying. I did not want to make her cry, but I kind of wanted to, like, I just felt the answer was there, and I was just like, I kind of knew it. But yeah, she's just like, yeah, our ancestors are watching over you because you're part of the family, you're part of the tribe. Because I was kind of initiated into the hoodoo tribe for them. Their ancestors chose me, so it was really nice to know that, in that time, I'm pretty sure everybody is kind of watching me, and I'm pretty blessed that my like ancestors are up there, and I'm okay. I'm okay. Like I'm good. Like I just had a bunch of sushi that I should not have eaten, and some Skittles yesterday, and I finished them today, and I should not have eaten.
That sounds
But
like a very unusual combination, Skittles and sushi. Like, yeah.
it's I don't know. I'm eating my feelings. I'm just gonna put it at that. I'm just before I go into a big diet, I'm just eating my feelings right now.
Like, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love sushi and Skittles too. It just seems like it's a weird combination.
It
But
kind of reminds me of girl dinner. Have you guys seen the
Yeah,
TikTok
yeah.
thing, girl dinner? Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to give y'all an update on that because I know I finally made it back to Katy because Houston's big, y'all. Like it's huge. From where I live, the other side, like Katy, a whole hour drive. And that's like taking the Beltway. So that's it was like a thing that was on my mind, and I just had to go. It was a nice day, but then yeah, definitely I got the answers because there's no way, no how that could be that random, so, of an interaction. Because I had random interactions, and it wasn't like that intimate, with like the undead, like that. So that was something right there. But who do we got to tell a scary story? Come on.
We have got some people.
Let's
Uh,
go.
we got
Come on
we
up.
got Carrie. Let's see if
I was
Carrie.
gonna say, and then you said Watson, and the first thing I thought of was 21B Baker Street.
What's that?
21B Baker Street.
Mm.
Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
It's been a while. I have not even.
Back in 2001, when I was over in the UK, I actually we did like a tour bus thing, and that was actually one of the places we drove past was 21B Baker Street. I think it's a government building now or something like that. Can't remember.
Yeah. I have. Man, I need a break.
So Carrie is no longer with us. I don't know what
The
happened
way
to
she
him, but
says it, there.
Requiescent
I brought him
potato.
up and they dropped. So guest box is wide open, guys. If anybody wants to come up and share a spooky story, we want to hear your spookiest spooky story. It could be about any of these topics: paranormal, extraterrestrial, cryptid, unexplained, glitch in the matrix. Come up and tell us your scariest story, the one that keeps you awake at night. And in the meantime, follow my lovely co-hosts here, Ali, Druid, and Chris. Send them a follow, send them some support for coming and hanging out here with us tonight. We appreciate that. And also, we have a subscription here on the channel. So if you subscribe, you get very cool paranormal emotes that I made with my own two little hands. You also get instant access to the Discord where we do the really weird stuff. So if you want to be part of the really weird stuff, I'm just kidding. It doesn't get that weird. It's just fun. Good, clean Christian fun. But I don't know, guys. I'm trying. I'm hanging in there. But yeah, for real, we do have a blast over there. Lots of cool stuff going on. So yeah, feel free to subscribe and to come hang out with us at the Discord. We got Queen Kate. I believe Kate is the one who said they had a hat. Maybe. I might be wrong about that. Hello, welcome.
Hello. So I have so many stories, but I was gonna start with the Hat Man since that was the first thing you guys were all talking about. Um, can you guys hear me? My phone's kind of breaking up.
Crystal clear.
Okay. So when my earliest memories, I was really, really young, probably 5 or 6 years old. And my sister and I shared a room, and we had a bunk bed, and I was on the bottom bunk. And I remember one night I woke up because I kind of felt someone watching me, and I look up, and there's this man sitting on the end of the bed, which is kind of, to me, I couldn't fathom it because I was a bunk bed, right? So like, how is this man sitting on the end of my bed? He would have had to like kind of been like phasing through the wood as well, like the footboard. And it scared me. It was just like this tall black shadow. He's sitting there, and I tried to pull the covers over my head, and my blankets were like being held down, and I couldn't pull the blankets up, and I was so scared I couldn't scream like for my mom or my dad, and I was trying to like hit my sister's mattress, like it was above me. I was trying to hit it to wake her up, and she never woke up, and I just remember just closing my eyes and praying it would just go away. And or whatever you do when you're little, I was tiny, and he did go away. And so then I tried telling my mom the next day, hey, there was this man in my room with a tuxedo, and he had a really funny hat on. And my mom was just like ignored it because stories of a little kid. And this is back in the 80s, like nobody paranormal stuff, nobody talked about it, right? And that continued for years that I lived in that house, and I would sit there and tell my parents that there is a tall shadow man that wore a top hat, and he would come in my room every single night. And one night in particular, I really had to use the bathroom, and I went to get up, but my bed was surrounded by these shadow creatures. Like, I don't know, like his dogs? I don't know. Um, and they wouldn't, like, so I couldn't even, and he was standing in the dead center, and like they were up against my mattress. So I couldn't move. I couldn't get out of bed. And uh, and my mom would get so mad at me. She'd be like, "Why'd you pee the bed?" And I'm like, "Because the man looked up." And she would just get so mad at me and like, "There's no man there. You know, you quit lying." And finally, I was probably about 10 years old. My my parents seen this tall shadow man walk out of my bedroom and stand in the hallway and then walk into that bathroom. And then they finally believed me after about 12 years that there was a shadow man in my room. But I didn't see him again from the time I was 12 till the time I was about 35. I was, which adults usually generally don't see him. And I had no idea that he was even a phenomenon until probably 5 years ago. And then all this research and everything, because I would sit there, you know, and type in things, because just try to see if other people have experienced what I experienced. And I had come across a woman on YouTube, and she was a psychic, and she was talking about how she was writing a book about the Hat Man and all the stories. And then that night, I used to have to go to work really early in the morning, about 3 o'clock in the morning. And behind my apartments where I lived, there was a small little courtyard, and there was these tall trees. And so I was going and pulling my car out, like back of my car out, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and the Hat Man like was stepped out from behind a tree and was staring at me. And I put my car in a drive so fast, and I like went up over the curb and into the yard, and like you can see my tire tracks because it scared me so bad. I was just like, nope, I'm out of here. And yeah, I didn't know what to do. I was so freaked out because there was no, at 3 o'clock in the morning where the courtyard and everything was, there was no reason for a man in a tuxedo with a top hat to step out from behind a tree. It was the scariest thing I think I've seen as an adult. It was so scary.
Sarah, isn't that funny how we had that story yesterday about the
Yeah,
with the
it
I mean, I'm
is.
sorry, the Hat Man with the dog.
Yeah, do you want to tell her about that actually?
Well, we had somebody come on yesterday, and they were saying how they would see a man walking a dog that looked like the Hat Man. So the fact that you mentioned uh, his dogs or whatever is you know, pretty funny. Uh, yeah, that really strange.
Weird
Yeah,
question, but what
yeah,
color
I
were the
was,
dogs?
well, they're shadows. So, and you could only, so I had a nightlight in my room, and they were so big, and he was so big that he would block out the nightlight, like, and they were just these and for the longest time, because I was so little, that it took me years to process that those were like actual dogs and not like monsters. You know what I mean? Like, and to a 5-year-old, that's a monster. You know, and they were big. They were big, shadow like monster dogs. Like,
Yeah. We get a lot of Hat Man stories in here, actually, so you're not alone. We actually have one of our moderators. His house is infested with shadow people, so they're really really common, right, sir?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, Druid, were you gonna say something?
Oh yeah, I was just wondering like about the color of the dogs because you have different dogs in different cultures, and uh, depending on their appearance is really depending upon what it might possibly be. And it, like what Raven Rex was saying, it sounded like it might possibly be dogs. They were
Yeah,
white
so
red tipped
if
ears, different
as an
sorts.
adult I could say like maybe like a Rottweiler build, but like massive, massive. Yeah, I mean you wouldn't run into a Rottweiler the size of what these would have been. Um, I mean they were just huge, and he was huge. He was so big that he had to duck in my room, or he'd have to sit. And he never said anything to me though. But I've heard stories where he talked to kids, but he never said anything to me. But I know he would come out of my closet, and for years, I would tell my parents like, "There's a man that comes out of my closet," and they just, wrote it off as me being 5.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about the shadow dogs until you told us, and then until yesterday. What about you, Sarah? Have you heard about those before?
No, I think yesterday was definitely my first time hearing about Shadow Man having dogs, but it's pretty interesting to say
Yeah,
the
for sure.
least.
Yeah, I'm very much interested because this is the first time I'm hearing. Usually, an entity with dogs or a shadow dog entails um, a kind of like a divine, like sort of entity, like a deity type.
Mm.
Much like Hades with Cerberus or Auron with the Hounds of Noon, stuff like that. They tend to have, or even Odin with Gary and Freki.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, that's so funny. I named one of my German shepherds Frankie.
It's Freki, Freki.
Oh, right. I heard Frankie.
are you like, what is the emotions that you get when you see this entity? Are you feeling threatened, like they are trying to
Com-
take you?
complete fear, complete like and I see. So that was like the start of my paranormal experiences, and I see entities and things all the time, and that is by far the scariest that I've ever encountered. And I always tell my kids all the time, like, if you ever see a shadow man with a top hat, like, you come and you scream for me, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want them to have that fear, and I don't want them to be like the how I felt, because I felt like, my parents, they wouldn't listen to me, and I don't know what they could have done, but just to have been validated, I don't want my kids to be scared. And it is a big fear of mine that he will visit them how he did. I was traumatized for years, and I felt so alone. And my sister never, and to this day, like, she still doesn't see or feel anything, and I'm the one that sees and feels everything.
Well, I'm sorry that you had that experience as childhood, but you're doing great by your kids right now because having the power of knowledge, it's actually a powerful shield for them because they're not going to be blinded.
Right. Right. I kind of like, I'm gonna be ready. Like, if he shows up, I'm gonna turn on all the lights on him or something. I don't know, but I just it's scary to. I just don't want them to go through that.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, we really appreciate you coming up and sharing that with us. And if you have any other stuff, feel free to come back later on and keep us updated if anything else happens.
Oh, for sure. I have so many stories. Like, but that was just the beginning. So,
Alrighty. Well, we appreciate you so much and have a good night.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we got some people hopping in the box. Nakia has been waiting. Hopefully, she is still with
Hi,
us.
welcome.
Hello.
Hi, how's everybody doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. So, yeah, I just have a quick story to tell, and it just seems like it happened just the other day, but so the setting was me and my friend Christy actually worked at Starbucks at the time. We were like in our early 20s, I want to say, just graduated. Her brother did bull riding, competition bull riding, and she lived out east with her parents and her brother. Well, they were out of town. Her family was out of town for that, you know, thing. So she invited me over to have some pizza and, soda pop and whatever, and watch back-to-back episodes of Sex and the City, just have a girls' night. So we did that. I wanted to just add there was no alcohol, no mugs, at all. We were good girls. I had to open the store the next morning, so around I want to say 2:30 a.m., 3, I was like, I gotta go to sleep because I have to literally get up in a couple hours. She's like, all right. So this was summertime. Her room was downstairs and in the basement, and there is a living room with beds down there, just like twin beds, because her brother's friends would stay the night that bull ride too, but whatever. So I stayed in one of the beds, said goodnight to her. I tried to go to sleep. And you know how in the summertime on the top level, it's significantly warmer than when you walk downstairs to your basement. It gets cooler. It's nice and cool. I was comfortable. All of a sudden, I couldn't sleep. I felt like the atmosphere in the room completely changed. The heat, it was like the room heated up. I was started to perspire. I was sweating. I was tossing and turning. Kind of felt like little pins and needles, like in my hands and my toes. And I'm like, I just couldn't get comfortable. So I'm a side sleeper. I'm going back and forth. All of a sudden, my back is towards the fireplace, and then something tells me to turn around. So I immediately, slowly, turn around, face the fireplace. And by the fireplace, there was what looked like a man, okay? Probably like early 30s or something, or late 20s, dark hair. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, do you want me to stop? Sorry.
Wait for the comments.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were like, stop. That's enough. Okay.
Sorry. Go
Oh,
ahead.
no, yeah. So, but this guy was just standing there, and it looked like he had like an ethereal glow, like almost a spotlight was on him, but not quite, but faint, But I could see every feature of him, the blush in his cheeks, everything. He was looking away from me. He was just looking at the wall, like a side profile. But it was from the torso up. Couldn't see his legs. He had no legs, just floating. So immediately, I'm like, I have to be sleeping, I have to be in REM right now. So I'm starting to pinch myself, just kind of be like, wake up, Nakia, this is it. And I felt the pinch and I said, whoa, I'm awake right now, and my eyes are getting bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where tears want to come out, because I can't believe what I'm seeing. I don't even want to blink. So I make a little noise. I make a like a, it's kind of like you're shocked, And he heard this and he turned to me, he turned his head to me, and he literally walked backwards and went away like water. It was almost like water. It just was like like gone. The room began to cool down again, start to go back to normal temperature. And I said, oh my God. I said, that is crazy. So I tried to sleep the rest of the night. Of course, I couldn't after seeing that. So I think I got about 30 minutes. My alarm goes off. I run in the restroom. I take off my clothes, and I usually put my dirty clothes in a little plastic bag. to take home with me. And my clothes were soaking wet. Soaking wet. And I said, this wasn't a dream. Like, this really did happen. So Christy woke up, my friend, she goes, hey, good morning. I'm like, girl, call me, text me what I gotta go to work, but we gotta talk. Like, I just saw some crazy shit, last. She goes, what? I said, I don't want to scare you, but so she calls me at work. I told her what happened. And she didn't believe me at first. She was like, why are you going to tell me this and my room's down here? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I was like, honestly, I know you probably think I'm crazy, but I, I've always known that the other side, there was a veil between, like, the living and also, the people that have passed on. And once that curtain is open, you can't unsee it. They want you to see them when they want you to see them. And usually your guard's pretty down when it happens. And I was like, this is what happened. But I wonder to this day who this person was. Who were they, a guardian angel? Were they just passing through? Were they attached to me? Were they attached to Christy in the house? Were they attached to the land? I live in Colorado, so there's a lot of Indian burial grounds and, Wild West stories. We got all that. But yeah, that's my story. That's what happened.
Quite interesting.
Very.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. Okay.
Thank you so much for coming up.
Yes, of course.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit. Go ahead and drop it. All right. We appreciate you. It's cutting out a little bit. I don't know if it was cutting out for everybody. It was cutting out for me again. But
Yeah.
thank you again. Yeah. And I saw like some gifts. I tried to like talk to you guys without like interrupting the guests, and then I accidentally interrupt the guests. So, but thank you guys for the gifts. I really appreciate that. I know I can't always like, oh, arrivederci. I have to say that because Tommy from My Dude says it, and I don't know what else to say, but I feel like I should say something. All right, guys, tap the screen, get some people in here. I believe this person, I think, said that they have a UFO story. Hello, welcome.
How's it going?
Good,
Hello.
how are you?
So, I'm from South Carolina, and there's this road that everyone around kind of like they say it's haunted or whatever. It's called the Old State Road. So I went there with my cousin and a few of my friends. It's like, oh yeah, let's go see some ghosts or whatever. Not really planning on seeing anything, but we turned down this like dirt road, and it's like probably like 12 miles long. Going down this dirt road, we come to a spot where it turns right, and as we turn right, there's like this huge hairy figure with like a really big head, but like this figure, the head was like extremely hairy, and like you can barely see the eyes on it, but the head was like huge, like probably the size of like 2 basketballs. And we turned down the road, and we're just facing it, and it has nowhere to go because there's there's a fence on each side of us, so it can't like take off to the like towards the woods or anything. So we kind of just like freeze. We're all just in the car, and we all freeze, and we're just like stunned. We're just like, this isn't real. What they said it was like a Bigfoot or something, but it didn't look anything like that. It looked more like an alien or something. Anyways, it just stops, and then it like charges at us like it was scared or something. And then it just takes off all the way down like straight the way we were going, and we put the car in reverse and take off. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just a
Very interesting.
huge hairy figure in
Chris,
South
do you have
Carolina.
something?
No, I was just thinking that's really cool. I feel like we rarely get like Bigfoot stories in here. I could be kind of tripping out, but yeah, no, that's really interesting actually.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
Thanks
you.
for coming up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we got.
Hello, Wild.
Hi. So I have a really good story for y'all. So I grew up in Florida, but when most people think Florida, they think sunny beaches, you know, boats and hoes, all those things. And I grew up out in the country. So this is old cattle country. And this is also old Indian ground, you know? And there's a lot of mythology back where I come from about the Indian mounds and the Seminoles and the cracker. They call it. This is where the term cracker comes from. Cracker comes from not just it wasn't about race.
Yeah, we gotta kind of try to watch what we talk
Yeah,
about
there
on here.
it's about farmers and cattle. It's specifically about cattle farmers, ranchers. And they were called crackers because they would crack the whips at the bulls and cows and stuff to get them to go and do what they wanted them to do. So that's where that term originally came from. It wasn't a race thing at all. It was just about how
Just
they
want to
ranched
say
cattle.
TikTok. This is for educational purposes only, and the host does not necessarily agree with the views of the guests. All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Yes. So it wasn't about, you know, anything derogatory, whatever. It was about how they took care of the, like how they were ranching the cattle. And there is an area of the middle of Florida, like way out in the country, way away from the beaches and everything, and it's called the Cracker Trail. And again, remember, this is about ranching cattle. But there is also Seminole Indian ground, and you know, there's a lot of different belief systems that come into play and everything. Well, there is an old myth that I've actually seen in real time with my own eyeballs. There is a man, a dark shadow with a hat on, and he's like the perfect silhouette man with like what you would consider an old west, like the vest and the shirt and the pants, you know, with guns on his hips and a hat on and whatever, or you know, whips on his hips, you know, obviously Cracker Trail. But he would show up on the side of the road sometimes out there in cattle country. And if he shows up on the road, wherever you're going, you fucking stop and turn around and pick a different route. Because whenever he shows up, something bad is going to happen. And I lived this in real time. I thought this was a total BS story my whole life. I was like, okay, ha, ha, ha. Shadow men. We've all heard about shadow men, you know, like shadow figures, like all witches our whole lives have heard about shadow people, you know.
Uh-oh. I think she got disconnected.
Alrighty.
I was gonna say, it sounds almost like stories of like Mothman as well, where it's a portent of death or unaliving.
Alrighty. Well, everybody tap the screen. Send some likes. Get some people in here. We've got about, what do we got? We got about 50 minutes. Not 15, but 50. 50, 50. 50 minutes left in the show. Chris, can you ramble about something?
Yes. Yeah, sorry guys, I was just getting settled in here. Um yeah, do we have any do we have any guests? Oh,
Uh,
no, I don't think so. Um yeah. Ali, do you have any do you have anything?
Okay. Let's see. What do I got? I can probably tell y'all something, a little something about. Oh yeah. Vampires. Does anybody have a vampire story or update? Did y'all get anything since like my little possible, maybe so, vampire encounter?
I do remember that. Is that the one in the was it a bar? It was a bar, right?
Yeah, in New Orleans.
Yeah, I do remember that story actually. That one was really interesting.
And it was with my friend Baisha. She
Yeah.
was right there. That's the same person. Yeah, I was like, does anybody have a vampire story?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Possibly, Miriam. We don't know. But if you have something a little freaky, something similar, I can reiterate that story. So just so, because it was weird. Okay, I can tell the story again.
Yeah.
Okay. So this happened. This was like it was still like nice little cool night. Like late January, I would say. And we were actually doing a it was a hoodoo initiation for like a cousin, a distant cousin, I guess, and her friend, and like her girlfriend actually now. And they were we were visiting Louisiana, so my friends, my besties just hit me up and be like, "Hey, we're doing this. We'd like for you to be here. Like, it's been a while. Come by. Mom, grandma want to see you and everything." Okay, so we did, and we were having a little fun weekend and everything. So we did the ritual and all. First things first, because the weather was, gonna get a little cloudy. So I remember it was nice, it was sunny. So let's, if you have a vampire story, get in the box now. I want to not be alone with this. Come on. Um, so I was like, it was great. We did our thing, and then it's party time, right? So we were partying all day. We had some excursions planned. We did all of that. Blah blah blah. We went to a. It was kind of like evening time. We went. It was before dinner, so we went to this. We went towards the what was it? The French Quarter, but not so close to the French Quarter, but kind of. Gosh, I can only tell you with my eyes exactly where it is. Like if you go down Bourbon Street and you go down the French Quarter area and you go a little further, that's where we were at. This little nook and cranny kind of place. Music was playing, it looked open, and it was really cozy. I was like, oh, we're curious, let's go down there. So it was nice, it was cozy, it was interesting. And you go down, it was like a nice little bar, and I forgot the name of it, and I don't know if it exists anymore. So I went there, and we were just getting our stuff, getting our orders, chilling, bar hopping before we went to dinner. And I was walking from the bar towards the table by the door. Okay. I kind of brush up and I bump in with this one dude. Now, being a magi, being a very intuitive person, I feel energies like that. This energy, like if you're dealing with like the unalived a lot, like in spirit figure, you would know, right? You would know that kind of feeling. But this guy was clearly alive, clearly physical, but cold. very cold, as in not like, I'm not talking about like ice cold as in like, like not like Twilight. I'm talking about like the way the energy felt. Like it was nothing there. Like there was no human like energy. Like, if I were to shake hands with you guys, I would feel that like life force energy there. But this one was very odd. Very odd. The guy also noticed me too, because he was bumping into other people, but he turned around and he looked at me and I looked right back at him. And because I felt very weirded, like a shock went up there. And so he looked at me and I looked right into his eyes and he looked into my eyes because he was wearing this fedora, funky looking fedora. Um, like, you know what? Look at Druid's picture. You see what he's wearing? Smaller than that. Smaller than that. But kind of like nice. Like I saw this fedora and I wanted it. Like I would wear it. It was really nice, snakeskin looking. So he was looking, and I looked right at him, and you can see the pupils. And this is in the dark. Are yellow, like yellow kind of lights inside. So there's no way, no how this person's pupil can be so highly dilated unless clearly on drugs. But didn't look like this guy was on the D's. There's more than just that. The eyes were very weird. Now, being a medical professional, I kind of looked very closely at him. Now, the eyes, he was kind of staring. We were staring at each other for a good like several seconds right here, and very very dark eyes, very dark, and complete white surroundings. There was no like blood veins, no red lines, nothing. Okay, even if you are like on the like high or something, you would have all the bloodshot eyes, even with your pupils dilated, but nothing like that. So the guy was just like looking at me and went away. And I forgot, if I'm missing details and you guys remember, just let me know, because I'm just rambling through this. Please, someone else say something. And he just left towards the bar, and people were looking at him. Again, I'm thinking he's a dead guy. People are looking at him, right? And he sat down to the bar, and I'm now recollecting myself with my friends. And well, I told her, "Hey, do you see that dude over there too, in the little hat and the little trench coat thingy?" And she's like, "Yes, weird energy." And I was like, "Look at him," and I'm looking at you. Just look at, and then so we were discussing that. She felt very weird energy from there, and then she just dragged me out of it. She was like, "We need to get out of here." And so we left. Up in there, we were in shock from what we saw. And Chris, I can hear you shuffling around. What you doing?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was laughing. Let me mute my mic.
I was gonna say he's actually secretly playing poker while you're talking. It's him shuffling the cards.
So yeah, so basically that was that. And then we had our dinner. We were kind of weirded out. We went back to Auntie's house. We told Auntie this entire experience. And then Baisha's mom and Auntie told us, and Grandma told us, we had possibly had an encounter with a vampire. Nothing like we've ever seen before, but that is exactly what she said. And Lord behold, like this guy was interacting with everyone else. Like he was not like an undead. He wasn't a ghost. But might as well have been. So that's my little possible maybe vampire story. I don't know. But anybody
How was he feeding off of them if he wasn't, he was draining energy, I'm assuming?
He could have been draining energy because, well, I mean, that's what I was thinking. Like later on, I was thinking that way because, I mean, look at the way we interact. And now I have my protections on, right? So maybe because the way I touched him, I kind of felt something. Maybe in the way he felt something, maybe that's how he did it. But there's also that he could have been probably just hunting. That's probably where he was hunting, because this is like a nice little. This isn't like a touristy bar. This is like the local homely bar. You know what I mean? Like, this is where either he's hunting, or I don't know. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe it is a touristy bar. That's where he went to go look for someone. But I'm feeling like what Auntie told us was that they usually go and they usually take a little and then they go away. It's really like an animal taking a little bit, like a mosquito, because they would get discovered. Anyway, like, other than is what grandma, like, what the elders were telling us. So they're like, well, what if he kills somebody? Because everything in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all of that, stuff is going through me and Baisha's head, and we're like, oh my god, like, there were some people over there. There were innocent people. Should we blow the whistle? So
I don't think they would have believed you if you said there was a vampire
I
hunting.
don't think they would have. But
I
also,
mean, just saying.
I mean, at least I could have been like that girl on the airplane, but like, that mofo right there is not real.
That's true.
But anyways, that's what we were kind of freaking out about, and Grandma's like, it's beyond us, but it's like hoodoo, voodoo, and like witches in Louisiana have known about this for a long time, and they're not the only little, like she said, weirdos out there, as if we're not the weirdos.
I pride myself on being a weirdo.
Yeah, we're the fun ones. We have magic.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's the thing. That's my little vampire story. Anybody has anything similar anywhere?
We do have some people in the box. You want me to bring up the next guest?
Yes.
Alrighty.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hi.
Hi, sorry. This is more speaking to the mom that was on a few minutes ago. I didn't catch her whole I actually didn't catch any of her story other than her acknowledgement of her children ever having a connection or a fear of something that she has identified in the past. And maybe just to give the moms out there, being one myself, I have 5 boys, giving your kids the reassurance to not bite their tongue with you, to never keep back those feelings. I have always been open with my kids about any feeling, and this isn't specific to anything they've experienced directly, maybe enough just that I have acknowledged their feelings or their insight maybe, and giving them the open feeling to be able to discuss it with me. But it's more about an experience I had as a child, and where my parents, in retrospect, were trying to protect me from what they were experiencing simultaneous to what I was experiencing. I was in bed. I was probably, I don't know, maybe 9 years old, 10, tops 10, laying in bed and feeling a negative supernatural energy that was touching me, and physically feeling I was wide awake because I left my bed out of fear, which I had to talk myself up to for minutes and minutes, laying there shaking in fear, freezing, being touched by something, at least demonic, if not the master himself. That's how I felt. That's how fearful I was. And I left my room, and it was always kind of understood that my parents' room, I don't know, I grew up in the 80s. So I was born in 77. So I kind of had, my parents had more of a strict mindset about how we were parented. We didn't sleep in mom and dad's bed. My parents were just more private about their room. It was a private space. We weren't allowed in there. Even when, during the day, even, we weren't really allowed in their room. Not that they had anything to hide other than around Christmas, but just that it was a respect thing. That was their room, and we weren't really permitted to go in there without knocking, without asking permission. And then, even then, usually they would come out and talk to us. We weren't really welcome in there. But that being said, that evening, I didn't know until sometime later, and I correlate these two things by other things that were going on in the house, other things that I was hearing out of fear that I didn't correlate to what they were experiencing until later on when they told similar stories, or this story in particular. I left my bed that night, went into my parents' room, and touched my mom quickly and said, "Mom, can I please just sleep on the floor here?" Because sleeping in her bed was absolutely would never happen. Even when my dad was out of town, we didn't sleep in mom and dad's bed. So I said, "Can I just sleep on the floor here?" My parents both being in bed, asleep, but I woke them. I thought I was waking them up, but they were both already awake. Their room was just as cold as mine. The following morning, something was very off. I couldn't put my finger on it. It was weeks worth of a very off feeling. And come to find out, my parents had a supernatural demonic experience that evening where my father felt as though at least a demon, if not a master of that realm, telling my father in a very clear voice in a freezing cold room to unalive my mother, and felt like there was something trying to possess him that night. I was in the room and my parents couldn't understand why I was coming in. I never went in their room, especially at night. I'd never woken up fearful. But it was an air that was in the whole house that night, and I didn't connect it. My brother was staying that night at my aunt's house. It was only me at home. So I feel as though the whole house was encompassed by this energy. And my parents sent me back to my bed to protect me, not to keep me out of their room. But they didn't realize how fearful I was myself. They thought I was just coming in, just very strange. They just wanted to protect me and get me out of where they were feeling, the energy they were feeling, and this very real fear my father was having that something was trying to possess him and cause him to cause my mother harm. And at the time, my mom and dad were having their own spiritual battle. My mom was attending church. My father was not. The whole reason why this entity was not wanting my mom to be part of the family or in his life was that and this goes back to 50 years, well, probably at the time, 40, well, maybe 50 years prior, a curse that was put on in great grandmothers and spiritual realms that he didn't even know about until later on, and curses that were put on his mother's children, all of which have had supernatural and or psychic abilities that they didn't understand. And I'm not saying all that to get into all those stories because they're not mine to tell. And I don't know that I recall them with enough accuracy to share them. But I'm just giving those words to parents here on the board. You don't know when your children may be affected. You don't know when they may have been at a friend's house and somebody was messing around with a Ouija board and invited something, their realm, into their mind or into their spirit, and don't ever poo-poo that and dismiss that because you don't believe or you don't have any reason to believe that they would have been exposed. They could have been, and that's really all. It wasn't really a story specifically, but that evening it was reality. And my parents were thinking they were protecting me when really they were instilling a deeper fear in me than anything. So that's where I'll leave it. That's all I had.
Alrighty, well, thank you for coming up.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing.
Thank you.
Thank.
All right, guys, we got about 30 minutes left in the show tonight. Tap the screen, get some people in here. Thanos.
All of these people have such trouble with demons and whatnot. Here's what you do, right? So this is a foolproof theory, or a foolproof way to get rid of demons. In order to command a demon, you have to know the name of the demon, right? So you compel the demon to give you its name. Then you go knock on wood, and you basically, alert the Fae. Once you get the Fae alerted, they demand a name from you. You give them the demon's name. Problem solved.
Okay.
And this is why we pay Druid the big bucks.
Hey,
Hello,
Thanos.
Thanos. Welcome.
Hi, how you doing? Okay, well, I had a exorcism that I was attending with an ex-girlfriend of mine. She had gotten someone that basically said they felt like that they had somebody watching them at all points in time. And me being a reader and doing psychic readings, and of course being my girlfriend, she invited me along with. And so I brought the book. I brought holy water from a church, and I tried to bless the entire house. Now, the exorcism started to actually get funky because the house started. This is in the middle of summer in the Southwest, and we get up to about 110 degrees around here. And the room started to get really cold. But I was blessing every single inch of the room with the holy water, and we were doing just sage and everything like that. And at the time that I got into their room, something grabbed my throat and I could not breathe. And I couldn't breathe, period. I felt it, and I was just like, and it was still cold, and you get that rotting smell that was around you. I was just like, oh. And what this exorcism was to actually get rid of an incubi, because the woman just felt like, she had something staring at her all the time. And so I couldn't breathe, and we had to leave. And the medium that I had working with me, she said, while we were trying to bless the house, it had truly communicated to her that we needed to leave. Otherwise than that, I was going to be punished, because it saw us both as a threat. And so that was one of my experiences in really the paranormal. I don't really do any kind of exorcisms or anything like that, but I do have high empathic abilities. I have high energy, and I'm an astral traveler, and I see things that are years down the road, and months and weeks even. And basically, so that's just really my base story. As soon as I left there, I had to go to the hospital, and they gave me a breathing treatment, and I still actually couldn't breathe. So for some reason, the incubus grabbed a hold of me and did not want to let go. So that's one thing for people that are out there that are listening to this. If you ever have any problems like that, you know, you have to actually burn the right kinds of herbs to try to get rid of everything that you think is within that home. And so,
As well, what Tina said, it was an incubus. It wasn't a succubus.
no, because it was attaching itself to her.
Oh, okay, okay.
So basically, it, like I said, she was the one that was complaining about it. The husband didn't really believe her, and it was, you know, since we weren't able to actually get rid of it, because we did have to leave, um, and I didn't have any sigils that I was actually aware that would, I mean, the fifth pentacle of Mars would have actually terrified it and made it go away. But I had not actually started studying into any real high magic to actually get rid of these. So I just put my faith into the Catholic Church, and that thing had enough power to basically attach itself and cramp itself onto me. So that's just one thing that a lot of people need to actually be aware of. You know, get the proper oils. Basically, coat yourself on your forehead and your neck and your hands, because those are high chakras. And make sure that you protect yourself from any of those kinds of beings, because they are dirty and nasty beasts.
Are you better now, or are you still
Oh,
haunted?
yeah, I'm better now. I think it's just one of the things now is just actually learning off of this. I've started to actually open up my. I'm a Solomonic practitioner. But I actually studied through the sacred magic of a Bremlin, the mage, back in 2008, and I actually did that entire process that he.
You
Uh,
did the Abramelin rite for 6 months straight.
no, for about a year and a half straight.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of people actually they say that it makes you go crazy. This was because, of course, in 2008, nobody was hiring. It was all the housing crash and all that bad stuff back in those days. And so I didn't really have anything to do. I didn't have TV. I didn't have a computer. It got stolen. But yeah, I had gone through that entire system. I read the book and I kept actually flowing at it. And it actually taught me a lot about ancient Hebrew magic, and also um, taught me a lot about Greek and Egyptian magic as well, because I started studying both of those afterwards. But I've been studying up on yeah, basically the occult since I was like 13, and I was raised as a Catholic.
This is
But
definitely Lee's wheelhouse here.
So you're an Abrahamic witch?
I would say I'm more right now a Solomonic witch, but I have actually practiced in the Abrahamic.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so yeah, it's I understand where you're coming from, and I get you, because my roots come from Magism. Like, I'm a Magi, born Magi, and that's my ancestry.
Mm.
Um, so yes, basically Abrahamic practitioners, Solomonic. It's all pretty much eclectic into that one studious, forever student type of practice.
Well,
Basically,
go.
wizardry.
Yeah, well, one thing that I started understanding about Solomonic practicing is that his magic goes with the energy of the planets, and both astrology and numerology in all forms. And a lot of people don't believe that the planets have energy that really affects us, but it truly does.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things, you know. I basically have told people who don't believe in any of this. I'm like, then why has the White House had an astrologer in it since basically Washington was founded? And a lot of people don't even know that. They're like, yeah, sure, sure. I'm like, yeah, even Benjamin Franklin had an astrologer that he had on staff, and it continues on to this day. So that's one of those things that, like I said, a lot of people, they don't believe it, they don't want to believe it, but it is true.
Yeah, and actually, they kind of believe it and don't realize that they believe it, like zodiacs and Mercury retrograde. So it's a thing. It's out there, but it's nice to meet another fellow such as yourself. Thank you so much. But I'm
Do you
glad, like
practice on the sigils?
I'm sorry. Say it again.
Do you practice with the sigils?
The archangels.
No, the sigils, just the because really Abraham came, of course, before Solomon. And Solomon actually was the true magician of the time, but he actually produced the sigils for his own personal type of magic that would be representing the planetary magic.
Oh, you're the astrological sigils. I do only when I need to, not like not devoted to one path. I'm like it's just eclectic in its nature as I'm called to it. It really
I
depends.
was just gonna say I'm gonna hop over to a friend's live since there's only like less than 20 minutes. But you guys are free to head over there when you're done if you want. It's just Blue Wizard.
Definitely. See,
Alrighty.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Druid, for hanging out with us tonight.
Yeah, of course.
follow Thanos if you ever want to talk.
Okay. Yeah, if you look at my my entire vlogs, you'll see that I'm a numerology master. So basically, I learned through Aleister Crowley and Eliphas Levi that numerology is one of the main terminals to actually use via tarot cards and tarot readings, um, and to really help you out in that kind of a format. But anyway, so hopefully you guys have yourself a good night, and maybe if you ever deal with that, or if you ever deal with the dark shadow or a shadow person, one of the things you want to do to get rid of it, get nettle leaf before you actually start burning sage. Nettle leaf will actually cause the shadow person to calm down, and then as soon as you go around the entire area of your house with that nettle leaf, and then you would burn sage, it should actually disappear. So there you go. A little bit of a tip for a lot of the people who are on live. So you have yourselves a great day.
Yeah, thank you for coming up. We appreciate you.
Bye.
All right, guys, we got about 15 minutes left in the show tonight. We're gonna get. I think Dylan has been waiting.
Welcome, Chillin'
Hello.
Dylan. Welcome, Chillin' Dylan.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Much gratitude, grand rising, blessings, light and love, and all that above. Got a few experiences to share. Where do you want me to start? The most recent or just the most but spooky, let's say?
We want to hear your spookiest spooky story.
Yeah.
One of the most spooky is more recently, I could just tell you right now, the four horsemen of the apocalypse came to visit me and I saw a vision. I've seen faces my whole life, right? One of the most spooky ones is my son had unalived in my arms, and I saw a portal open in front of me about 15 years ago. I couldn't see the angel, the leader of the four horsemen. I couldn't see him, but I felt his presence, and I had a tug of war for my son's soul ever since, And ever since then, I've been running into this deity, entity, whatever you want to call it. I've got, whether it's a shapeshifter or a skinwalker or just something that's very powerful, that it's followed me from city to city, state to state. It's manifested several different images, manifested like a human appearances, like it's the same person. There's at least 3 or 4 of them right now that follow me from wherever I go. They end up in different bodies with the same name and the same character traits, right? So for one, I've got Mr. Daniel. I believe it's the same Mr. Daniel from our story of the Bible. I've met him 4 different cities. He walks with the same limp. He jumps in different bodies, and he just tries to guide me on a religious aspect, right? He tries to get me to stay on the Bible. So he'll get me to try to follow the scripture. And then I've got this deity named Sammy Joe. And I'm not sure what she is, but she's
Hello. Welcome to the line.
Yes, hello. So, yeah, y'all want spookiest, correct?
Yes.
Alrighty. So, a little pre-content. My family has always liked the paranormal, even dating back from my great-grandmother, because we've, I don't know what it is about my family, at least on my dad's side, we always seem to find stuff like that. So, as we have grown up, we've actually liked to go to haunted places and do this stuff and get some pictures. I have a couple that we've taken of Shadow Man, and our actual, like my camera, come out completely black besides a single window in the corner, despite it being daylight outside. But spookiest is probably what I've brought on to myself. Is unlike the rest of my family who finds it interesting, I actually want to make sure I get an experience out of it. So when we go to haunted places, I've actually started to take up of inviting these spirits to come with me. And from that, we've mostly gone to places where shadow men have been supposedly spotted. And due to this, I've never had it before. Since then, I have been awoken to hearing people talk over me. I have seen figures standing in my room at night, and my cat has started since then to look out into my hall at night when it is dark out, just at nothing while I feel watched. But one of the more spookier ones, I guess you can say, is for a while I would feel something crawl into bed with me. Not like my cat, because my cat is smaller. I know where she's at. She's always by my feet. But I'm saying something behind me would crawl into the bed with me. So I decided to sleep on that side once. And I was awoken to feeling something poking me in the side, only to turn over and see nothing there. My cat was not in the room with me. Something was just poking me hard enough to wake me up from the middle of my sleep. Another one is from this. This has all happened after I've started inviting them to follow me. Is we have an old what are they called? Record players? Yeah. old-fashioned record player. At 4 in the morning, we have had it actually turn on. No one on. You have to put the pressure down and actually start up the machine. 4 a.m., everyone's asleep. We start hearing it play. And that's some stories I've had since then is I've actually got to feel these ghosts, or what I believe ghosts actually poke me, watch me, and interact with some of the stuff inside of our house.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Ollie, did you have any input on that?
That's actually scary that you actually invited them, though. Um, Also, quite some guts. How are you feeling?
I feel fine. I treat them with respect. My door would halfway close sometimes, but that's normal. But sometimes it'll fully close. Same with bathroom. Even at work, I've seen some of my like our doors, like heavy freezer doors, open on their own. I'm talking like doors you have to sometimes put your full weight on. So I thank them. I treat them with respect, and they've never really bothered me. Besides, the occasional, scare because it's in the middle of the night and I'm half asleep. But they've never actually affected me outside of that. Because my belief is we are about the same. We will go to the same place at some point. So why fear something that will be with me no matter what?
Yeah, well, I mean, your first step is controlling your emotions there with not having fear that allows them to not have power over you. Just, if you haven't already, kind of like seek a spiritual advisor or like, somebody who is close by, like a witch maybe, to give you some protections just in case anything else might, come through that wasn't invited. Um, some little trinkets to wear.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, everything is welcome so far. As long as I don't have an experience like at my and I'm using some of my parents and my grandmothers because, like I said, we're all very in this. We've all had experiences with this. I don't know what it is with my family, but my grandmother, this house is now burned down, but in her room, there was actually something that would breathe inside of her room at night. And at one point, when they moved into a different house, they called it the room to not enter because this door handle, for whatever reason, would jiggle every time, all the time. If you were alone, that doorknob would start to jiggle.
Interesting. Wow. Man, that's
Yeah.
tough. I kind of feel like the same. I mean, they don't get that close, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, my sister's been able to describe my great grandfather, and he was dead long before us, to the feather in his hat. My grandmother never showed us a picture of her, and she was able to describe the hat he would wear, along with the fact that there was a feather in it.
interesting. Wow. I mean, that's great story there, man. Spooky, but interesting.
And I'm planning to go to more places eventually. That's what I want to do. I want to go places and invite as many as I can till I can get enough that I can just straight up start recording my house.
Yeah,
Wow.
well, we appreciate you coming up and
Yeah.
sharing that with us.
Yeah.
We'd love to see those recordings.
Yeah, I've actually tried recording my sleep once, and like how a table is. I've set my phone in the middle of the table, midway through my sleep because I put it on fast forward. It actually, I still can't figure out why it didn't fall like face up or face down, but managed to not just propped up standing, managed to fall from the center of my table to the middle of my room face down, recording the floor.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, have
Yeah, thank you.
yourselves.
You have a good night.
Yeah, have fun, and remember, treat some ghosts with some respect. Maybe you might get a friend out of it.
Thank you. All right, Sarah.
All right, Chris.
All right, Ollie. Do we have time for one more, or what's going on?
Yeah, it's up to you guys.
All right.
Go if someone's up to share.
All right, hold on. We have time. It's about quitting time, but I'll bring Lodge Tales up here because we can't ignore him. He's the best around here.
Yeah, I want to hear his update.
What's
Hi.
up?
So I got a few stories. Just I was on an interview for my podcast just now. Geez, we went like 2.5 hours, but in that podcast, I got reminded of a few stories, and I just want to share them real quick. But so my mother-in-law had this really weird thing happen to her one time. She was driving from the main town on the reservation out to this community where they live. It's like 20 some miles out. And as she was going down this big hill to the right, she seen now this is weird, hovering above the ground, this huge silver door, just chilling there in the middle of this field. No rhyme or reason for it, but hovering all by itself. Don't know where it led to or what happened to it. When she tells me that story, she always says, I always wonder if we would have stopped that day and went back and opened that door, what we would have seen. That I wouldn't have the guts to do that, but that was one story that come up this evening, and I really wanted to share that with you guys, just to give you guys something to think about, if something similar like that has happened, or if anyone's ever heard of anything like that in folklore or whatnot. It's a really weird thing, and it happened to my mother-in-law. And this other story happened to her daughter. Here's this road that leads from one community to another, but they're way outlying communities. And near there is a place called Ghost Ridge, so there's a lot of activity there. What happened was there was a starvation, we call it starvation winter, and that's where a lot of people were unalived because of starvation, and they're all buried up there. Well, on that road, one day she was sitting passenger with her cousin, and they were driving to the driver's house. And as my sister-in-law was sitting in the passenger side, their headlights shined on one of their cousins walking, because right over that, just right near there is where that ranch is at, and they thought he was walking from there and going to somebody else's house at night. So they see him walking, he's got his hood on, and they say, "Hey, that's so and so. Let's pull up next to him and give him a ride. I wonder what he's doing out here walking like that." So they get close to him. My sister-in-law rolls down that window and says, "Hey," says his name, and says, "Jump in. What are you doing walking out there? Come on." And as he turns to look at them, it wasn't him, but this person that looked at them had a chin that was so long, like his whole face was long. Like she said, it looked like that mask on Scream. You know that mask that they wear. That's the face that looked at them. It was all stretched and drawn out long. She screams, jumps to the side of to the driver's side, tries to get as close to that side as possible away from it, and rolls that window up, and they just speed out of there. But those were the two stories real quick I wanted to tell. I don't want to stay too long because, well, you know me, I can go all night with these. But yeah, thanks for having me on, and I hope you guys enjoyed those.
Yeah, thank you.
Details next Sunday.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to like put something in the Discord lodge, because I actually have an experience with some type of entity that looked kind of like that too. But I'll put it in the Discord. And speaking of which, you guys, if you enjoy this community, you enjoy the show, and you want to be part of the community, the best way to do that is to come over to the Discord, hang out with us. We do all kinds of wild stuff over there. Chris posts a lot of selfies without his shirt on.
Talk about scary. Nah, I don't want to. I don't want to traumatize people.
No, but you guys, if you want to subscribe, feel free to hit that little button. It's a good way to show support for the channel, and you get to be part of our community over there. So you also get cool emojis that I made with my own two little hands. But it is that time, guys, where we end it for the night. And we might do, maybe sometime this week, we might do a surprise stream another night. Maybe, possibly. So,
Ooh.
but otherwise, we will be back Sunday night at 11 p.m. Eastern, gathering around the Holler Goblin once more for spooky stories. But everybody go check out Horror Chris if you like horror stuff, movies, scary things. Follow him. Check out Ali. Ali is very cool. Special thanks to Druid. He's not here, so I guess you probably can't follow him. But anyway, if sorry for the people we didn't get to tonight. I do appreciate you all joining, though, and thank you all for hanging out with us. And we will see you later. Also, don't forget to follow me and come check out my new video. I got 2 new videos posted. You'll love them. Come over and click like on them and leave a comment. And
Yeah.
and we will see you all next week, or maybe sooner. Maybe.
Bye.
Bye, guys.